The woman's eyes widened in surprise that Long Chun had recognized her identity so quickly. She had taken every precaution to disguise herself, yet somehow he had seen through it. A deadly glint flickered in her gaze. She was clearly afraid of Long Chen's status, afraid of the retribution of the 9-star line. As a result, she was now determined to kill him no matter what. Otherwise, calamity would surely strike the Life Hunter race. Die! Having barely escaped death moments before, Luo Zishu raised his sword high and swung down with all his might. This slash contained the will to rise above the heavens and destroy the world. Carried every ounce of power Luo Zishu could summon. He knew that if he let Long Chun close the distance again, his chance would slip away. Hence, he had to settle it in a single blow. High Heaven God ending slash! Luo Zishu roared, gathering his full heart and spirit into this attack. Seeing this scene, countless experts retreated, afraid of being accidentally killed by this attack. However, Long Chun simply lifted his hand, and a luminous cross formed above his palm, causing the stars in the sky to tremble. As the cross pulsed, it absorbed astral energy at an alarming rate. Suddenly, a strange crackling sound came from within Long Chen's bones, followed by a sharp, needle-like pain stabbing through his palm. My body can't withstand this much astral energy? Long Chun realized, gritting his teeth. Without further delay, he released the accumulated power in a blazing attack. Star Ocean God-slaying cross! Shouted Long Chun. Boom! Long Chen's palm destroyed the sword chi, along with Luo Zishu's high heaven will. Ah! Luo Zishu's agonized scream rang out as his sword crumbled into pieces, and he clutched his head, writhing in unbearable pain. Meanwhile, Long Chen's right hand was bleeding, and the skin on his palm was gone. He still couldn't endure that much astral energy. But with this blow, Long Chun had destroyed Luo Zishu's sword and sword Dao will. While Long Chun hadn't killed him outright, he had effectively crippled him. For a sword cultivator, their sword Dao will was both their greatest strength and their greatest vulnerability. With it shattered, Luo Zishu was broken. However, no one here cared about Luo Zishu. After a brief moment of shock, they pounced on Long Chun. Leading them was the woman from the Life Hunter race. Boom! Long Chun unleashed a fierce palm strike to meet her attack, only to feel a disturbing drop in his power. It wasn't that he lacked astral energy. He had plenty left, but his physical body was strained to its absolute limit. His power surged endlessly, but his body could no longer sustain it. With a roar, Long Chun counterattacked ferociously, but his foes were relentless. Each attacker was a peerless genius from the Primal Chaos era, with hundreds matching Luo Zishu's level of strength. Though he fought with everything he had, injuries started piling up as he was overwhelmed by the sheer numbers. Blood soaked Long Chen's robes, and his aura started to fall. In the distance, Long Chun heard Yunfeng's desperate shout, "Save him!" However, Long Chun knew the reinforcements would never reach him in time. He would fall long before they arrived. Is this it? Am I really going to die here? Long Chun muttered bitterly, casting his gaze up to the stars above. Their light seemed to reach down warmly, like old friends wishing to help but unable to. Then, something clicked in his mind. There's still one more move. With a sudden, guttural roar, Long Chun unleashed a surge of astral energy that sent the surrounding experts staggering backward, forced back by the sheer force of his power. Seizing the moment, he raised his hand and gritted his teeth. Whether I live or die, it all comes down to this attack. Violet flames ignited on top of his hand, and starlight appeared within them, condensing astral lotuses. When the astral energy of heaven and earth poured into the lotuses, they instantly grew, devouring an enormous space. Star Lotus Death Blow! Long Chun roared, not knowing why he shouted this name. The next moment, the enormous astral lotus exploded. The explosion consumed everything around him. Luo Zishu, the Life Hunter woman, and the other top experts. All were devoured and obliterated by the tidal wave of astral energy. The entire battlefield surrounding Long Chun transformed into a barren land of death. This was a truly apocalyptic attack. While Long Chun had detonated the astral energy of heaven and earth, he himself was uninjured. However, after unleashing this attack, he felt completely empty, and the world spun around him. His body fell from the sky. Long Chun vaguely felt a pair of arms catch him and heard an extremely distant voice calling out to him. "Little brother." The voice was unmistakable. It was Yun Feng's. But all of a sudden, something warm splashed across Long Chen's face, and the next moment, Yun Feng's voice ceased to exist. Vague sensations crept through his fading consciousness. His body was being dragged, jostled. He heard desperate shouts and roars all around him, the sounds of chaos and panic. Even as sharp blades pierced his flesh, the pain seemed distant, his body refusing to respond. "Great 9-star heir, you have to hold on. You can't die, you absolutely can't." Long Chun heard a woman's voice shout right into his ear, but it was cut off by the sound of a slash. That voice pulled him back to a sliver of awareness, just in time to see the woman block a blow meant for him. She was a fellow human, and her face was alight with fierce determination and hope. In her eyes, Long Chun was someone worth fighting for, someone priceless. Her killer's head exploded an instant later, struck down by a muscular man wielding a massive broadsword. After the muscular man scooped Long Chun up, he dashed toward a shimmering spatial whirlpool in the distance. As they moved, Long Chun caught glimpses of other human warriors sacrificing themselves, using their bodies to shield him from strikes and by precious seconds. Even with their broken bodies and incomplete limbs, they clung to their enemies, biting and clawing to hold back the onslaught. "Why? You don't even know me? Why would you do this? Stop it." The sight burned through his soul, and the sense of helplessness clawed at him like a sharp pain in his chest, tearing at his heart. After that, the man carrying Long Chun fell, cut down by a devil expert. The latter then sneered and lunged at Long Chun with a clawed hand. Boom! For people charged at the devil expert and pushed it away before self-detonating. Though the devil survived, he was not a threat anymore. Another warrior lifted Long Chun, and this time he saw that it was a woman. She looked too young to be on the battlefield, but grim determination shone in her eyes. She didn't last long. A blood race woman tore her down, only to be cut in half by a human warrior in swift retaliation. Around them, warriors continued to die defending Long Chun, while others swarmed forward, attempting to take his life. Every effort, every sacrifice was made to push him closer to the spatial whirlpool. Finally, a man managed to give Long Chun one last push forward. Long Chen's vision blurred as he watched the man disappear beneath a tide of enemies, his face peaceful, a smile lingering even in his last moments. The whirlpool's energy pulsed around him, and space quivered. Everything went dark as his consciousness slipped away. Darkness, endless, suffocating darkness. Within it, an intense hatred churned, and this overflowing hatred refused to settle. Before, Long Chun had found peace in this very darkness, a soothing stillness that made him feel as though he had returned home. But now it failed to calm the fury inside him. His hatred only grew, an uncontrollable force rising within his chest. A voice broke through the chaos, familiar and ancient. "Great 9-star heir, I can sense your thirst for vengeance. Are you angry? It is time to settle the 9-star line's ancient grudge. Put aside your doubts, and dye your hands red with the blood of your enemies. This world needs someone who can restore order, a hand that will wield a butcher's blade to cut through this chaos." Long Chun remained silent, absorbing the voice's words but offering no response. "The 9 heavens and 10 lands are on the cusp of an era where the past will return," the voice continued. "This is the final opportunity for the human race. You must rise and shoulder its responsibility. Hurry and grow, great 9-star heir. Time is running out." Despite the endless darkness around him, Long Chun felt an undercurrent, something hidden within it, waiting to be revealed. He didn't speak, and the voice fell silent as well. Long Chun merged with the darkness, his presence fading into it. No one knew how much time had passed, but the darkness slowly faded. When Long Chun saw light once more, he slowly opened his eyes. He was surrounded by a sea of blood and corpses, the air thick with the scent of death. Huolinger and Lei Linger were nearby, their energy nearly depleted as they fought to protect him. "Big brother Long Chun!" The two of them cried out in relief when he opened his eyes. "What's going on?" asked Long Chun. He was surprised to see the bloodied state of his palm and the numerous injuries across his body. Blood continued to seep from his wounds, and his energy felt drained, as if it had been siphoned away. "Big brother Long Chun, you have to get out of here. You suddenly went still, your life chi and spiritual fluctuations vanished. We had no idea what was happening because the primal chaos space suddenly ejected us. We tried to wake you, but it was useless. Your body kept being injured, and no matter what we did, we couldn't stop it. Grandpa Earth Cauldron and Big Brother Evil Moon were gone. We were so scared," explained Huolinger. Tears welled up in Huolinger and Lei Linger's eyes. The terror they had just experienced was beyond words. They thought Long Chun had died. His body was inexplicably harmed, and no matter what they did, they were helpless to stop it. Before they could speak further, a horde of silver wing heaven devils appeared, their numbers overwhelming. 9 Vein Emperor silver wing heaven devils surged toward them, accompanied by half-step devil emperors. The two of them had fought for hours to protect Long Chun. Now the ground was littered with the corpses of silver wing heaven devils, their blood forming lakes around them. When Long Chun's eyes fluttered open, their joy was incredible. They had never been so frightened in their lives. Hearing that the Earth Cauldron and Evil Moon were gone, Long Chun jumped. He quickly checked the primal chaos space, his connection to it now restored. To his relief, he saw the Earth Cauldron and Evil Moon still there, but they were surrounded by a swirling mass of countless runes, encasing them in what appeared to be a giant cocoon. The heavenly Tao tree, the 7 treasure-colored glass tree, the mysterious vine, and even the golden lotus seed in the sky were in a similar state, wrapped in energy that vibrated with power. The moon trees and Fusang trees, too, seemed transformed, radiating a new divine light as runes swirled around them. They were brimming with vitality, more alive than ever before. Long Chun's eyes widened. He could feel it. Something had changed. The very aura of the primal chaos space had shifted. "These runes, this aura," Long Chun muttered. His heart trembled as he focused on the runes surrounding the Earth Cauldron and Evil Moon. The familiar aura washed over him, sending a chill down his spine. Are these not the runes of the heavenly Taos from the primal chaos era? Is this not the aura unique to the primal chaos era? Even the laws governing the primal chaos space now carried the distinct flavor of the ancient era. The primal chaos space had truly undergone a heaven-toppling transformation. "My starry sea." Long Chun focused inward, his gaze falling on his dantian. To his astonishment, the violet chi within had changed. It was now as dense as water, swirling with a deep, pulsing energy. It was as though there was a sea mirroring the starry sky, and the sky itself mirrored the sea. For a moment, it was impossible to tell which was the reflection and which was real. Looking at the 8 stars, Long Chun was delighted to see countless runes on top of them. Although the runes were so dim that they were almost imperceptible, he recognized those runes, the new state of the 8-star battle armor he had unlocked in the primal chaos era. What exactly happened? Long Chun muttered to himself, stunned. Everything felt like a dream. But could a dream be this real? If it was a dream, what about the injuries to his body? What about his experience in the primal chaos era? What about the runes on his stars? This was beyond his understanding, something that defied everything he knew about the world. Unfortunately, the Earth Cauldron and Evil Moon were in a strange state, and Long Chun couldn't communicate with them for now. Otherwise, perhaps the Earth Cauldron could shed some light on what had happened. However, given the changes in the primal chaos space, the Earth Cauldron and Evil Moon, it was clear that they had undergone some kind of transformation. It seemed that whatever had occurred had benefited them all. Could it be that I really entered a crack in spacetime? Long Chun wondered aloud. Long Chun looked up at the sky, which had brightened considerably. The once dark heavens now held a different, unfamiliar glow. Big Brother Long Chun, this place is too dangerous. We should leave, Huolinger urged, her voice laced with urgency. What is it? Asked Long Chun, not seeing a threat in the vicinity. There's a terrifying presence deep within the Blood Sea, and it's the one directing the Silver Wing Heaven Devils to attack us. For some reason, it can't come over here itself, but its soul alone almost shattered our Yuan spirits. That's why we had so much trouble with these devil creatures. We were heavily wounded by the soul attack, Huolinger explained, her tone fearful. Lei Linger nodded in agreement, both of them clearly shaken by the power of the mysterious entity. A terrifying fellow? Long Chen's expression changed. Just a wave of its soul had almost destroyed their Yuan spirits? What kind of being could possess such overwhelming power? Let's go. Long Chun immediately set off with Huolinger and Lei Linger. But before leaving, he grabbed all the corpses and tossed them into the primal chaos space. Looking around at the empty space, Long Chun took a deep breath. Once I've recovered, I'll return to figure out what's going on here. After Long Chun left, the black screen reappeared, returning everything to how it looked when he had first arrived. Ha! Only now did Long Chun realize he had circled the core region completely, unwittingly ending up behind it. Before entering the Wind Domain battlefield, Feng Xinyue and Yi Lingkong had repeatedly warned everyone to enter through the front gate, known as the Life Gate. The core region of the Wind Domain battlefield was the center of the powerful curse. It was where Feng Wuji had unleashed his curse art. Feng Xinyue said that the curse art was based on the 8 trigrams: body, life, pain, limit, vision, death, terror, and opening. Of these gates, 3 were considered gates of fortune: opening, body, and life, while 3 were gates of misfortune: death, terror, and pain. The vision and limit gates were neutral. Among the gates of fortune, the life gate was the most auspicious. In contrast, the death gate was the most dangerous. Ever since the Wind Domain battlefield first opened, the Wind God Sea Pavilion's disciples had always entered through the life gate. Over countless years, no one had ever strayed from this path. One reason was that the Wind God's lineage could naturally sense the life gate's aura, and the other reason was that entering through the other gates was not only riskier but also required much longer detours. In Long Chen's case, he lacked the ability to sense the life gate. Despite aiming for it, he had somehow veered so far off course that he wound up here, at the Death Gate, after unknowingly circling the entire core region. Such a thing had never occurred to the Wind God Sea Pavilion's disciples or someone from other sects, as the life gate was simply too easy to find. Though Long Chun didn't know much about the 8 gates, he understood that they were supposed to contain all manifestations of the world, expressing 8 directions, 8 elements, and even any interconnecting web of 8 attributes. And one thing was certain: the Death Gate was taboo. Yet, he had come out of it unharmed, an outcome as strange as it was improbable. He counted himself fortunate to have Huolinger and Lei Linger with him. Without their protection, he might not have returned alive. I should regroup with Wanner and the others. They've probably gone on without me. But since I'm here, I have to see what lies beyond the Death Gate, muttered Long Chun. Long Chun had made his determination. Since he had come here, then he had to go in no matter what. What was there to be afraid of? But for now, he backed away with Huolinger and Lei Linger to heal themselves with the primal chaos space's energy. He also needed some time to recover his astral energy. Upon returning to the Wind Domain battlefield, Long Chun couldn't help but feel a bit out of place. The heavenly Daos were merciless toward him, no longer looking after him. He could feel the heavenly Dao energy unintentionally damaging his wounds, slowing down their recovery. The heavens are still the heavens, but the Dao is no longer the original Dao. Just who is manipulating it? Long Chun demanded through clenched teeth, but no one answered. Even after mobilizing the life energy of the primal chaos space, Long Chun found that the wounds on his body were healing very slowly. He sensed the distinct aura left behind by those who attacked him: Devil Race, Blood Race, Netherworld Race, and clenched his fists in anger. "You're all traitors to the 9 heavens," he muttered. "I'll remember this debt." Betrayal wounded him far deeper than his physical injuries. Now, he understood how the human race had fallen from the peak of the 10,000 races. There had been traitors in their midst, but he knew he couldn't dwell on this now. If his thoughts were a mess, he wouldn't be able to focus on healing. Long Chun consumed a medicinal pill and entered a meditative state. Gradually, his chaotic thoughts cleared, and his exhausted astral energy started to replenish. Like a tree reviving in spring, he grew stronger, drawing power from the heavens and earth. All he needed to do now was maintain this meditative state. In this relaxed state, the recovery ability of the primal chaos space was at its greatest, healing his essence, chi, and spirit quickly. Days passed as Hualinger and Lei Linger took turns resting and standing guard. Their recent battle had left them damaged to their cores. They had barely withstood the relentless assault of the powerful devil creatures. Fortunately, there was a pile of corpses in the primal chaos space. Life energy released from the corpses flowed into the moon trees and fusong trees, generating an endless supply of flame energy for Hualinger. Lei Linger also benefited, as the bodies released locked lightning tribulation energy that fueled her recovery. However, the true reason for Lei Linger's rapid recovery came from the mysterious vine. This vine was still small but surrounded by a wild and terrifying aura of black lightning, radiating a power that even Lei Linger found intimidating. In the past, she had tried communing with the vine, but it had always ignored her. But in her weakened state, she sensed it calling to her. When Lei Linger got close, the vine extended a tender leaf, placing it gently in her hand. Instantly, a vast surge of thunder force poured into her, and her nearly depleted power was restored to 50% in a single breath. Lei Linger was astonished. Her body held nearly limitless thunder force, yet this vine had managed to restore half of her power in an instant. Normally, regaining that much would have taken her at least 3 days, and only if ample thunder force were available for her to absorb. Lei Linger and Hualinger recovered rapidly, and 7 days later, their power returned to its peak. Long Chun, however, took a full 10 days to recover completely. This time, his wounds left deep scars that even the primal chaos space couldn't erase. As Long Chun looked at his scars, a cold, deadly intent sparked in his eyes. Good. These will serve as reminders of the traitors who betrayed the human race. He stretched, feeling the transformation within him. Though his body bore the marks of battle, his strength had surged to new heights, a leap beyond anything he had experienced. Let me see how powerful this mysterious fellow is. With resolve hardening his steps, Long Chun returned to the Death Gate, where something powerful lurked, so strong that it had nearly destroyed Hualinger and Lei Linger with a single strike. Long Chun hadn't merely recovered. His body had transformed, imbued with an immense but unfamiliar power. In his recent battle on the primal chaos battlefield, he'd been riddled with wounds, each bearing the power of time that lingered as scars. Luckily, when the enemy's weapons pierced him, they carried not only violent forces but also the laws of primal chaos. Once Long Chun purged their will of destruction, the residual laws remained within him, sealed like an untapped source of insight. Though he couldn't absorb them directly, he could slowly gain a deeper comprehension of the primal chaos laws through them. After recovering, he found his understanding of the world deepened. He felt as if he could see them with startling clarity. The previous battle had transformed him, not only in raw power but also in awareness and perception. In the primal chaos battlefield, he saw the true face of this world. There were those who would sacrifice everything to protect him and those who would stop at nothing to harm him. In every era, for every friend, there was an enemy, and for every light, a shadow. The question was whether he faced the light or turned his back against it. The battle further confirmed Long Chen's beliefs. Slaughter was not always the best way to solve problems, but when chaos reigned, bloodshed was necessary to restore order. This was an unavoidable aspect of life. His conviction now burned more fiercely, unclouded by doubt. Traitors always turned order into chaos, inverting black and white, twisting right and wrong. They would come up with an honorable excuse for themselves, saying that their betrayal was entirely justified and the only correct choice. Throughout history, such a thing had played out often. Although the situation changed here and there, the essence stayed the same. Before this, Long Chun had been haunted by the fear of succumbing to his heart devil, questioning himself constantly and fearing he was treading a path toward darkness. Yet, through this battle, his doubts faded, and he finally saw himself clearly. He had misjudged his heart devil. In truth, he simply lacked faith in himself. Facing the mysterious, fearsome entity, Long Chun didn't waver. Alone, he charged straight into the death gate. As he neared, space itself quivered, and grand Tao runes flared around him. Once again, he could sense the faint aroma of primal chaos laws in the air. However, they were extremely indistinct, incomparable to what Long Chun had felt on the primal chaos battlefield. When he looked up, he noticed a slowly spinning whirlpool, as if it was struggling to sustain itself. He then realized that this was the vortex that had pulled him into that fierce battlefield. Back then, this place had been shrouded in black chi, so he hadn't sensed the whirlpool at all. But now he saw it clearly. The whirlpool spun slower and slower, shrinking as if it could no longer sustain itself and was on the verge of vanishing. "There's primal chaos chi coming from it?" exclaimed Long Chun. This energy was why these devil creatures' corpses had not decayed like ordinary corpses. The primal chaos chi had seeped into them, altering their very essence. As Long Chun got close to the whirlpool, the earth suddenly shook, and swords of light descended from the heavens. "Big brother Long Chun, be careful. This is that fellow's aura." Huolinger's voice echoed in his mind, her tone laced with a fear he had never heard before. Huolinger and Leilinger were unique spiritual entities who had, against all odds, condensed their own yuan spirits, a rarity for their kind. Since they had first gained consciousness, nothing had ever posed a genuine threat to their yuan spirits. Although they had nearly undying bodies, if their yuan spirits were destroyed, they would also perish. Unlike the human race's yuan spirits, theirs were sustained by the flame energy and thunder force of the world itself, which allowed them to regenerate as long as these elements existed. Thus, in the past, they could even self-detonate in battle to injure their opponents if they needed to. However, this mysterious being wielded a power that could sever them from all elemental energy, a capability they had never encountered before. Being completely wiped out was not outside of the realm of possibility. Such isolation was terrifying because it meant the mysterious creature could entirely cut off their life force, preventing their regeneration and grinding away any fragments of their yuan spirits until nothing remained. Under normal circumstances, they could flee to the primal chaos space, but at that critical moment, Long Chen's strange state had ejected them from it, cutting off their retreat. More importantly, even if they could have escaped, they would never have left Long Chen behind. Swords of light descended from the heavens, piercing into the ground. They formed a wall that blocked Long Chen's way of retreat. Clearly, this terrifying existence didn't plan on giving him any chance to flee now that he had come this far. However, Long Chun didn't even look at the wall of swords behind him and continued onward. "Damn human, you have some guts. You've ruined everything for me. So tell me, how should I deal with you?" A furious voice echoed through the space, so chilling it seemed to freeze the very soul. Long Chun smirked. "Kneel down, kowtow 3 times, say, 'Dad, I was wrong, and maybe I'll let you live.'" With a swift motion, Long Chun shattered a light barrier and stepped forward, revealing a scene of sinister grandeur. For blood-red mountains encircled a massive concave pit. At its center, a white bone altar stood, constructed entirely from the bones of humans. Tens of thousands of silver-wing heaven devils knelt on the altar in eerie silence, each one radiating immense blood chi. They were all half-step devil emperors, but they were completely motionless, facing a platform at the center of the altar. Atop this platform stood a blond man with gleaming golden wings and an ancient saber in hand. His piercing gaze was locked on Long Chun. "Golden wing heaven devil?" Long Chun clenched his fist, feeling an intense surge of battle lust rise within him. The blond man wasn't that large, essentially the same size as Long Chun. However, He had a pair of bat-like wings that looked as if they were made of solid gold. His presence alone was suffocating, radiating a killing intent so intense it felt like invisible blades slicing toward Long Chun. A plan spanning millions of years, costing endless sweat and blood, was ruined by you. I finally opened the space-time gate and started extracting the laws of the primal chaos era to erase that bastard's 8 trigram blood curse. 10 more years, no, just 5 more years, and I would have succeeded. Humph, with this army of experts under me, I would have annihilated your foolish human race. But a mere ant like you destroyed it all. Tell me, how should this emperor deal with you? The blind man demanded, his tone venomous. Didn't I already tell you my proposal? Why don't you try it? Spat Long Chun coldly. The man sneered. So typical of the human race. Stupid to the core. You don't even realize who stands before you, or the suffering you're about to endure. Stop bragging. Since I dare to come here, it means I'm not afraid of you. Your plan ultimately failed. In other words, you are still nothing more than a corpse. Do you think Boss Long San would fear you? Snorted Long Chun disdainfully. I thought I'd seen every kind of human idiocy, but you're something else. Even a half-step divine emperor is merely an ant before this emperor, let alone a little earth saint like you. From his repeated use of the title emperor, Long Chun knew he was a true devil emperor. Moreover, the pressure radiating from him was beyond anything a lesser being could emit. However, Long Chun remained contemptuous and countered. Even if you were once a devil emperor, so what? You are just a corpse and bound by the curse now. If you had any real power, you'd have stopped my 2 sisters from helping me. Instead, you sat there without even letting out a squeak while we left. Hualinger and Lei Linger giggled at this, their fear melting away in Long Chen's presence. Seeing that he wasn't the slightest bit afraid of him, their own fear diminished as well. Oh, and I'll bet you can't leave that altar, right? Long Chun continued, pressing his advantage. Maybe the curse has you nailed down, or maybe the altar's power is tied to you. You're afraid that if you move, everything you've worked for will collapse. A flicker of surprise flashed in the blond man's eyes, just as Long Chun had suspected. I didn't expect you to have some brains. That's right, I cannot move from here. Feng Wuji's curse energy is concentrated on me. So the laws of the 8 gates bind my soul and will. I had my subordinates spend countless years gathering the skulls of the human race to construct this altar. Your race isn't affected by the curse, so I used their unyielding wills to unleash a supreme divine ability of my golden wing race. Borrowing the death chi of the death gate, I corroded the walls of spacetime and pierced a channel through time to extract the aura of the primal chaos era, which could counter the curse energy binding my body. Just as I was about to succeed, a bastard like you caused the entire channel to shut down, said the blond man, his face twisting with fury once more. Long Chun felt a jolt of surprise. He hadn't closed the spatial channel. He had simply traveled through it, and it had closed on its own after his return. All of a sudden, he realized that this fellow actually didn't know too much about the spacetime channel. He had only used it to extract a bit of primal chaos chi to counter the curse art. The blond man had no clue that Long Chun had actually crossed into the primal chaos battlefield itself. Long Chun asked, "Brother, are you angry? Let me ask you a question." "Scram! Who is your brother, you stupid human?" Long Chun waved dismissively. Fine. But if I told you I entered that channel, went to the primal chaos era, and then came back, would you believe me?" "Ha ha ha." The blond man laughed heartily. "You idiot, you should at least try to make your lies believable. Do you think anyone would believe that? Do you take me for a fool?" Clearly, the blond man had no idea of the truth and refused to entertain the notion. Nodding, Long Chun replied, "You're right. I wouldn't believe it either if someone else told me. Anyway, what were we discussing? Yes, the fact that you can't move from there. Go on. Go on." The blond man sneered, his tone deadly. "Even with my soul bound by the curse and my body connected to the altar, killing you is as easy as a flick of my wrist. Do you really think you can escape alive after facing me? Leave? Why would I?" Long Chun shook his head. I came here for you. Now that I'm here, let's settle this. You? The blond man's gaze sharpened, and his golden wings spread slowly behind him. Suddenly, the entire world seemed to tremble. Countless threads appeared, cascading through the heavens and earth. Long Chun felt his body tighten, as if it had been encased in solid stone. The threads flickering around them were Grand Tao runes forced into physical form. These invisible laws of the universe, now compressed into visible threads, were something Long Chun had never seen before. A pitiful ant like you should be kneeling before me, the blond man declared, his voice booming. Who gave you the courage to stand tall before this emperor? A cracking sound rang out as Long Chun slowly raised his hand, shattering the space around him like fragile ice. It felt as if he were encased within an iceberg. Each movement was grueling, yet his expression remained fearless. Boss Long San doesn't need anyone to give him courage. Today, I'll kill you to honor the heroes of the human race that you butchered, Long Chun said, his gaze unyielding. 8-star battle armor. Long Chen's shout echoed across the land, filling the air with his unwavering intent to battle. A vast, starry sea appeared as 8 stars spun around Long Chun, causing the heavens and earth to tremble with the resonance of countless das, bathing the world with starlight. The aura of Long Chen's 8-star battle armor had transformed, alive with a spirit that hadn't been there before. While the runes on the 8 stars remained dim, Long Chun could sense astral energy slowly flowing toward him from an incredibly far distance. There was a barrier separating him from this astral energy, but for the first time he felt its presence. This connection with the heavenly das didn't grant him more strength, but knowing they were there filled him with renewed confidence. The moment the starry sky battle robe materialized around him, his long hair billowed in the wind, his eyes sparkled with electricity, and his fighting spirit blazed. After the battles he'd fought in the primal chaos era, Long Chun was unafraid of anything, feeling his confidence restored. I actually misjudged. You're a 9-star heir, the blond man said, his pupils contracting as he saw the 8-star battle armor. I didn't expect it. Lord Brahma and Fallen Day Knight really are a pair of trash. How could they haven't finished hunting down the dregs of the 9-star line? Well, that suits me just fine. My plans have changed. Your body is useful to me. Perhaps I can use it to reconstruct the spatial channel. There was a new excitement in the blond man's voice. He seemed to have found a way to make up for his losses this time. You really are a fool. After gathering primal chaos chi for so many years, it still wasn't enough to make up for your lack of brains. When you kneel and beg for mercy, I wonder if you'll still be this arrogant, Long Chun taunted, lifting his hand. The next moment, Evil Moon appeared in Long Chen's hand. Though still in slumber, it was now ready to fight as the primal chaos laws cocooning its body were gone. Evil Moon was still digesting the laws it had absorbed during this time, and the Earth Cauldron was in a similar state, neither of them able to help him in this fight. However, Long Chun didn't need their aid. He only needed a weapon sturdy enough to withstand the full force of his astral energy. He rested Evil Moon on his shoulder, feeling its familiar, overwhelming weight. That sensation alone was enough to send power surging through him, his body ready to burst if he didn't unleash an attack. That saber. The blond man's pupils shrank to pinpoints. The sinister aura radiating from Evil Moon struck something deep within him, causing a quiver of fear to flicker across his face. You arrogant brat, he roared. Even if you are a 9-star heir, so what? At your level, you're unqualified to challenge this emperor. Without warning, the altar trembled, and a golden sword manifested in the sky. It descended swiftly, radiating an oppressive emperor's aura that weighed heavily on the land. This attack not only contained terrifying pressure but was also backed by the will of a devil emperor. For most experts, this force would have shattered their will in an instant, extinguishing their souls. Long Chun smirked. You keep calling yourself emperor. Don't you realize you're nothing but a corpse? Your core runes are dead, and you dare to act arrogant? Get on the ground and call me daddy. With a fierce swing, Long Chun swung Evil Moon down. Boom! The heavens shook as an explosive force erupted. Devil might clashed with starlight, scattering across the sky. The golden sword shattered into fragments beneath the power of Long Chen's attack. The blond man seemed to have expected this and merely sneered. As he formed a series of one-handed seals, the altar started to flicker, and thousands of golden swords condensed in the sky, pointing at Long Chen. It's been countless years since I fought. Even if I haven't come back to life, I'm still beyond what an ant like you can challenge. I have to be careful not to kill you accidentally, the blond man sneered. When his fingertips quivered slightly, thousands of golden swords shot toward Long Chen with a piercing screech. Don't bother with the theatrics, Long Chen taunted, his own sneer matching the blond man's. Boss Long San doesn't fall for cheap tricks. Kowtow, call me daddy, and I might give you a quick end. Evil Moon pulsed with dark energy as countless saber images appeared, cutting through the onslaught of golden swords one by one. Evil Moon's blade became an impenetrable shield, letting not a single golden sword slip through as explosive sounds filled the air with each impact before Long Chen could even catch his breath. Another wave of golden swords shot toward him, stronger, faster, and more numerous than the last. The blond man's intent was clear. He wanted Long Chen alive, so he probed cautiously, trying not to kill Long Chen accidentally. In response, Evil Moon danced in Long Chen's hands as he met the assault head-on, cutting the stream of golden swords without taking a single step back. These swords carried a formidable force. 80% drawn from the laws of heaven and earth, 10% from devil blood, and another 10% from primal chaos. There was also the slightest trace of the human race's souls within it. Long Chen guessed that this trace of soul chi came from the human skulls embedded in the altar. Weak though it was, this trace dulled Long Chen's attacks, reducing his power by nearly half. Yet, as the blond man tested his strength, Long Chen was also probing his secrets. The golden swords turned into a flood, with tens of thousands raining down on Long Chen with each breath. It was a brutal grind, meant to sap his energy. In life, the blond man had been a terrifying devil emperor, a force of immense power even in the primal chaos era. Though he was now an undead, the power he commanded was still unfathomable, filling the battlefield with an overwhelming presence. For half an incense stick of time, the two remained locked in a meaningless cycle of attack and defense. Then, with sudden intensity, Long Chen raised Evil Moon high toward the heavens, summoning a surge of astral energy that ignited the blade. A massive saber image tore through the golden swords, cleaving a path toward the blond man. Warm-up's over. I've learned all I need to about your strength. Now it's time to end this, Long Chen declared. Long Chen swung his saber, and before the saber image even struck, he had launched himself forward like a bolt of lightning, racing straight for the altar. Long Chen suddenly accelerated, leaving a trail of afterimages as he closed in on his opponent. It's not so easy to face me. You need to be qualified first, sneered the blond man, forming complex seals with one hand. Spatial whirlpools materialized in Long Chen's path, each brimming with powerful spatial energy that could bind Long Chen. Humph. Beating you requires qualifications? Long Chen scoffed. With Dragonbone Evil Moon resting on his shoulder, he extended his left hand, unleashing the force of his violet blood. Runes of violet energy flooded into the whirlpools, destabilizing them instantly. In just a bit, they shattered. Violet blood? How can a 9-star heir have violet blood power? Exclaimed the blond man. With one attack, Long Chen destroyed those spatial whirlpools. In truth, he didn't even know why his violet blood runes could destabilize the spatial traps. At this moment, he was in tune with his intuition, and his senses felt heightened to an unprecedented level. As soon as he spotted the spatial whirlpools, he instinctively knew his violet blood could disrupt their equilibrium, unraveling them effortlessly. This intuition had no logical basis, yet Long Chen had always trusted it. However, ever since his heart devil had emerged, he'd been plagued by doubts, fearing that his choices were tainted by it, making his instincts hazy and unreliable. However, now his mind felt clear. His vision seemed to pierce through the fabric of reality itself, easily discerning his opponent's weaknesses. "Call me Daddy and I'll tell you," said Long Chun as he rushed over. "Ignorant brat, scram." The blond man's hand seals changed, and the void trembled. The next moment, a bone-chilling wail tore through the air, as if millions of ghosts were shrieking for Long Chen's soul. Shadows of countless ghostly figures started to materialize. The Ghost Dao. Long Chen's pupils shrank slightly. This blond man really had many tricks up his sleeve, even taking out something from the Ghost Dao. However, this wasn't a magical art of the Ghost Dao. He had merely summoned its lifeforms. Long Chun had encountered similar beings in the mortal world, although those were far weaker. Back then, he'd even bribed them with money to guide him. Yet, the ones before him now were different as they were filled with boundless resentment, killing intent overflowing from their figures. Long Chun hesitated, wary of allowing them too close. Wait, a thought struck him just as he prepared to defend himself. Rather than blocking them, he remained motionless, letting them get close. All of a sudden, those lifeforms fled as soon as they got close to him, scattering in every direction and vanishing. The Ghost Sovereign's mark? Impossible! The blond man cried out, aghast. It seems that the Ghost Sovereign's mark hasn't faded even with my rise in power. Long Chun muttered, his heart sinking. The Ghost Sovereign mark. Long Chun had never been able to sense its presence directly, and he'd assumed it might have disappeared as he grew stronger. But now, with these Ghost Dao lifeforms fleeing at his approach, the truth was undeniable. This mark wasn't something he could simply outgrow or erase. Long Chun felt no relief, only a heavy sense of unease. Still, he didn't hesitate. Stepping forward, he closed in on the blond man. Silver Wing Heaven Close, block! The blond man roared, his hand seals shifting once more. A pair of massive silver wings materialized, folding into a towering shield in front of Long Chun. So, you're not actually from the Golden Wing Heaven Devil race, Long Chun remarked, his voice laced with a hint of mockery. You're a Silver Wing Heaven Devil who managed to cross the threshold and advance. The blond man coldly answered, correct. This emperor was an unmatched genius of the Silver Wing race. Only 10 others in the entire Silver Wing lineage managed to make this leap to Golden Wings. Though I am not born of the Golden Wing Emperor race, I've achieved a heaven-defying transformation and earned respect even among their top heavenly geniuses. A little human like you is only an ant in front of me. You aren't qualified to be arrogant. Be suppressed. The enormous shield brought a suffocating pressure as it slammed toward Long Chun. Be suppressed? What are you going to suppress me with? In the primal chaos era, you were always suppressed by others. Do you think a little shield is enough to change that? Long Chun mocked. Keeping Evil Moon balanced on his shoulder, Long Chun extended his left hand. 7-colored radiance flowed from his palm, gathering into the shape of a cross. Long Chen's palm collided with the massive shield. Compared to the colossal barrier, he looked like an ant before towering city gates. Yet, with a deafening explosion, he stopped it cold. What? The blond man's shock was palpable. He couldn't believe his eyes. This was a divine ability of his heavenly devil race, something no earth saint should be able to withstand. These are Jilly runes. You have the Jilly race's bloodline too. Who are you? His voice quivered, recognizing the unmistakable power of 7-colored supreme blood. As he spoke, the 7-colored runes pulsed across the shield. In an instant, it shattered, dispersing into countless fragments that vanished into the void. Through the dissipating shards, Long Chun strode forward, his eyes gleaming. If I told you I'm your daddy, would you believe me? Long Chun said. With every step Long Chun took, the void quivered. The starry sea behind him burned brighter as a violet flame flickered into existence. His astral flame roared to life, unleashing waves of energy as his aura surged to its peak. Stars flickered fiercely in Long Chen's eyes as he bent his back slightly. His posture coiled like an ancient beast about to strike. His sharp killing intent locked onto the blond man. Time to realize the truth, "Child!" exclaimed Long Chun. In one fluid motion, Long Chun raised Evil Moon high, and in perfect harmony, one man and one saber surged forward, unleashing a devastating strike toward the blonde man on the altar. Long Chun continued to circulate his astral energy, attuning himself to the forces of heaven and earth. As he absorbed this energy, he noticed a change. After the primal chaos battle, his astral energy had undergone a profound transformation. Although the world's laws still screened him off, the once impenetrable barrier now seemed to have small openings he could exploit. Before this, he had only sensed the distant astral energy, feeling its faint blessings and support. But now that energy seemed closer, responding to his call, trying to reach him through the screen. The trickle of power seeping through was barely a fraction of what he'd accessed on the primal chaos battlefield. Less than 1/10,000th, but it was still an improvement. With this astral energy bolstering him, Long Chen's power not only grew, but it could also be maintained for longer. While it wasn't the limitless power he'd wielded in the primal chaos era, it was now at least 10 times more abundant than before. With this support, Long Chun felt fearless, confident he could even face a devil emperor from the primal chaos era. As Long Chun repeatedly called himself Daddy and referred to the blonde man as Child, the latter felt his fury reach a boiling point. Even in the primal chaos era, he had been a renowned heavenly genius, a powerful overlord with a reputation. Yet now an Earth Saint Jr. dared to insult him. "You insolent fool! Do you want me to crush you in a single blow?" He spat, his rage overflowing. With a shift in his hand seals, the silver wing heaven devils kneeling on the altar began to twitch. Hundreds of them rose, and waves of devil chi exploded around them. Each of these silver wing heaven devils was a 9-vein emperor, their sharp claws tearing through the air toward Long Chun. They emanated a powerful spiritual energy, almost as if they were alive. "Not bad. Were you only one step away from reviving them?" Long Chun asked, feeling a bit surprised. These silver wing heaven devils seemed to be alive. The blonde man's methods were truly heaven-defying. Idiot, they were never dead from the start. Their souls were fractured and sealed by a curse, putting them in a half-alive, half-dead state. Other than being unable to activate their core runes, they're no different from when they lived, sneered the blonde man. Unable to activate their core runes? Then what's there to fear? Long Chun replied, unbothered. Without their core runes, these creatures couldn't unleash their innate divine abilities, meaning they couldn't even bring out 30% of their peak power. Boom! The first silver wing heaven devil reached Long Chun. Stars swirled atop his hand as he met its claw head-on. With a thunderous clash, both Long Chun and the silver wing heaven devil were forced back a step. Its physical body was astoundingly powerful, as expected of a body nourished by the laws of the primal chaos era. "This thing is pure treasure," Long Chun murmured, almost drooling as he eyed the silver wing heaven devil. The blonde man's hair stood on end at Long Chun's expression, which looked disturbingly like he was eyeing a meal. He couldn't fathom how this seemingly weak human could stir a sense of dread within him. After their brief standoff, Evil Moon swept through the air, and with a single strike, the silver wing heaven devil's head flew off. Despite how strong its physical body was, it was still unable to stop Evil Moon. The moment Evil Moon sliced through its neck, its life truly ended. Without hesitation, Long Chun tossed its corpse into the primal chaos space's black soil. As the black soil began to absorb it, he sensed a surge of primal chaos chi being released, along with fragments of Grand Dao runes. Jackpot! Long Chen's eyes lit up with excitement. If he had enough of these devil corpses, he could probably turn the primal chaos space into a true world of primal chaos chi. Then, with its power, he might even pierce through the barrier blocking him from the heavens, freeing himself from these shackles. With a triumphant shout, Long Chun swung Evil Moon ferociously. The once terrifying silver wing heaven devils were cut down like weeds in front of Evil Moon. The blonde man was dumbfounded, unable to believe what he was seeing. He had never seen such a sharp weapon before. He was extremely familiar with the strength of those silver wing heaven devils. Their strongest points were their silver wings, where they focused their life's cultivation. Those wings were their ultimate weapons. Yet Evil Moon sliced through them like butter, the cuts as smooth and clean as glass. Evil Moon's unnatural sharpness left the blonde man in complete shock. These silver wing heaven devils were 9-vein emperors. While they couldn't activate their core runes, thus unable to unleash the full power of their wings, those wings were still vastly stronger than an ordinary emperor-level divine weapon. They had been nurtured by the primal chaos era's laws and chi, making them formidable in their own right. However, Long Chun noticed a blood-colored pattern etched along the edge of Evil Moon. As he focused on it, he sensed Evil Moon's aura embedded within that pattern. So even in slumber, it is instinctively helping me, Long Chun muttered, his confidence rising once more. With renewed vigor, he swung Evil Moon again, and the silver wing heaven devils were cut down in droves. Before they could even land on the ground, lightning and flame chains would appear and catch them, sucking them into the primal chaos space. While Hualinger and Lei Linger didn't dare to fight the blonde man, helping Long Chun clean up the battlefield was still doable for them. Seeing this, the blonde man quickly recovered from shock, and a new fervor appeared in his eyes. Good, the stronger you are, the higher my chances of success. Go ahead and kill them all if you want. They mean nothing. Boom! With a violent burst of power, his hand seals shifted once more. The altar trembled, and the silver wing heaven devils that had been kneeling rose, charging toward Long Chun. Child, your filial piety is impressive. I won't stand on ceremony any longer, Long Chun sneered. Finally, Long Chun placed Evil Moon back on his shoulder, panting slightly. He then turned his gaze to the blonde man and said, "It's time to end this, don't you think?" After slaughtering the tens of thousands of silver wing heaven devils, most of them 9-vein emperors, with over 10 at the level of half-step devil emperors, Long Chun started to pant. Seeing him panting, the blonde man sneered, "Out of breath already? Now how are you going to fight me? Out of breath? What do you mean?" Long Chun countered. When Long Chun took a deep breath, his aura flared to life, and his breathing steadied. In an instant, his energy returned to its peak. Seeing this, the blonde man quickly realized the truth, and his eyes narrowed. "So you weren't using your astral energy just now. Why would I waste astral energy on cutting up some corpses?" Long Chun replied disdainfully. Though Long Chen's starry manifestation had been active, he'd relied only on the power of his violet and 7-color supreme blood. After cleaving through so many powerful experts, he had exhausted those powers, and that was why he was panting slightly. Now, switching to astral energy, he was once again in top condition. In other words, all that combat had only used his blood energy and some spiritual strength. Long Chun wasn't an idiot. He understood the blonde man's goal. If the other side wanted to exhaust his power, he'd beat them at their own game. Now, a pile of silver wing heaven devil corpses rested on the black soil of the primal chaos space. "Don't bother to scheme against me. Your schemes are nothing in front of my power. Why embarrass yourself by trying to use your feeble brain against me?" taunted Long Chun. As Long Chun approached the blonde man, his astral energy slowly climbed, transforming the world around him. A 9-star heir with violet blood and Julie blood? That's a first. You're a bit stronger than I anticipated, and it might take some more effort to capture you. But do you really think a little Earth Saint is qualified to challenge this emperor? Said the blonde man coldly. My goal isn't to challenge you. It's to beat you, or better yet, to kill you. Long Chun smirked, his eyes blazing. You might have been a devil emperor once, but now you exist in limbo, neither dead nor alive, neither welcome in heaven nor hell. Stop bringing up your past glory. That's already long past. Now, you are standing before the unrivaled, heaven-shaking boss Long San. The blonde man threw his head back, laughing. Unrivaled? Heaven-shaking? A so-called genius from this weakened era dares to speak like that? Absurd. Laugh all you want. Soon you'll have no chance. That's right. Have you ever heard of wooden barrels and their short planks? Long Chun asked. Wooden barrels? The blond man chuckled, indulging Long Chun. Of course, I know they're made of planks. What's your point? Long Chun continued. Other than the bottom, a barrel is made by joining many planks together. But how much water it can hold doesn't depend on the longest plank. It's limited by the shortest one. And, the blond man looked unimpressed. A person's power is the same, Long Chun explained, walking forward. Their physical body, bloodline, magical arts, divine abilities, formations, intellect. These are like planks. Joined together, they form a wall. But not all planks are equal. Some are taller, some shorter. Many cultivators focus only on their longest plank, ignoring the shortest, which turns out to be their weakness, their shortcoming. I'm confident in challenging you because I know where my longest plank is, and I've spotted your shortest one. Comparing them, I'd say my longest plank is a bit taller than your shortest. And what's my short plank? Sneered the blond man. Rather than telling you, it'll be easier to show you. As Long Chun walked forward, he completed 36 steps, leaving 35 footprints glowing with starlight behind him. Suddenly, 35 phantoms of himself appeared, merging seamlessly with him. Waning moon heaven shaking slash. Long Chun shouted. Evil moon descended like a black river of stars, shaking heaven and earth. You're cheating, the blond man shouted, realizing that he had been duped. Long Chun had been distracting him all along and had prepared this attack from the very first step. Originally, the blond man had been holding a simple golden saber, his other hand forming seals. Now, as the altar rumbled, he drew his saber from it, bracing for Long Chun's attack. The altar quivered alongside countless human skulls on it, as if the structure might collapse under the strain. This golden saber was the tool used to suppress these human skulls, so the blond man didn't dare to use it lightly. However, Long Chun's thunderous attack left him with no choice but to draw it. Boom! Two divine weapons clashed, unleashing massive saber images that collided with explosive force. The impact tore the void open and obliterated the runes of the 10,000 Daos in the surroundings. Long Chun spat out a mouthful of blood as he was hurled backward. The blond man was also knocked back, each step he took making the altar beneath him sway dangerously. The whole structure trembled as if on the brink of collapse, held together only by blood-colored threads linking the human skulls. Without those threads, the altar would have already fallen apart. I see. When I first arrived, the corpses there were half-step devil emperors, but now they're mostly nine-vein emperors. You are absorbing their power to sustain this altar, Long Chun said, wiping blood from the corner of his mouth. After that, he grinned darkly. Looks like you've got more weaknesses than I thought. That last strike was just a warm-up. It doesn't count. Let's go again. Taking a deep breath, Long Chun slowly closed his eyes and raised Evil Moon toward the sky. A fist-sized star lit up on Evil Moon's blade. Then a second and a third. With each new star, the starry sea behind Long Chun quivered, flowing into Evil Moon. By the time the seventh star materialized, the entire starry sea had merged into Evil Moon. Long Chun coughed up a mouthful of blood, feeling the immense astral energy coursing through Evil Moon. It started to leak and resist his control. It's going out of control. Long Chun's expression changed. This attack was a technique he'd devised on the spot. He hoped that it would work seamlessly, but executing it was far more challenging than anticipated. 7 stars, waning moon slash, he roared, blood spraying from his mouth as he swung Evil Moon downward with both hands. This was a new technique that Long Chun had come up with by merging the secret art of the 9-star line with Evil Moon's waning moon heaven shaking slash. To improve his chances, he'd first used the waning moon heaven shaking slash to fully infuse his astral energy into Evil Moon. But now, with the energy unleashed, Evil Moon's power surged wildly beyond control. Unable to restrain it any further, Long Chun let Evil Moon fly from his grasp and whirl toward the altar. Not bothering to look at the outcome, he turned and fled. Run, run. Long Chun's legs blurred into motion as he bolted, lightning and flame wings unfurling from his back. He moved so quickly that the space ahead twisted in his wake. Yet, Even at this breakneck speed, Long Chun still felt that he was too slow. His grand attack, one he'd been so confident in, had spiraled out of control. The raging energy now attacked everything in its path, friend or foe alike. He bit back regret. If Evil Moon weren't in slumber, this might not have happened. But there were no what-ifs in this world. Gritting his teeth, Long Chun fled as far from the altar as his legs could carry him. Deep within the wind domain battlefield, an enormous mountain dominated the landscape. Its sheer cliffs pierced the clouds, and at its peak rested a natural platform. On this platform sat over 10 figures, men and women. Their postures were calm, and their hands locked in sacred seals. But there wasn't even the slightest fluctuation of life coming from them. At the forefront sat an extraordinarily handsome man. Though countless years had passed since his death, anyone who saw him would be subdued by his aura and feel the urge to kowtow to him. Even now, divine light swirled around him, radiating the unmistakable aura of the wind god's lineage. This was Feng Wuji, a disciple of the wind god and the one who had cast the legendary 8-trigram curse. He and his comrades had sacrificed their lives to seal countless silver wing heaven devils, condemning them to an eternity as cursed zombies on the battlefield. Their selfless act had safeguarded the world. When Tang Wan'er and the others ventured into the core region, they spread out to cover a large area. But to their surprise, there weren't that many silver wing heaven devils here, and they weren't as strong as expected. A single small squad was enough to deal with them easily. There was no danger whatsoever. Upon reaching the core region, the group paused, waiting for Long Chun. In the meantime, they searched the surrounding area for treasures. As their search radius grew, practically every person had their own lucky encounters. Some stumbled upon bone texts inscribed with ancient secret arts, while others found divine weapons. Though rusted, the item spirits within these weapons were still alive, sustained by the essence blood of the silver wing heaven devils. These spirits, if provided with suitable hosts, could be reborn and even recount the history of that bygone era. Some unearthed medicinal pills from the primal chaos era. However, wary of their unknown properties, they refrained from consuming the ancient pills, planning instead to offer them to the Wind God Sea Pavilion in exchange for rewards. Additionally, the group amassed an extraordinary amount of devil essence blood and devil crystals, which marked them as the most fortunate participants in the Wind Domain battlefield's history. Their ultimate goal, however, was to pay their respects to Feng Wuji and his comrades. This was a sacred ceremony they couldn't skip, so Long Chun needed to be there. However, even after they had slowed down their pace to give him time, he was still nowhere to be seen when they reached this hallowed ground. It's been so long, but Big Brother Long Chun still hasn't appeared. He couldn't have. One of them began to speculate nervously. Don't spout nonsense. With Big Brother Long Chun's power, which devil creature could stop him? My guess is he's come across some incredible opportunity and is just taking his time with it. A divine retainer interjected confidently. The group nodded in agreement. These devil creatures posed no real threat to them. How could they possibly threaten someone as strong as Long Chun? Big Sister Wan'er? Xiao Yu and the others turned to Tang Wan'er for guidance. Should they continue waiting or proceed with the ceremony? Tang Wan'er made her decision. He's not part of the Wind God's line. We'll proceed on our own. Everyone, remember, be earnest as you form the Wind God seal and chant the Wind God mantra. Do not blaspheme our seniors. These bodies were not just heroes of the Wind God Sea Pavilion but saviors of the entire human race. Without their ultimate sacrifice, who knew what would have happened to the 9 heavens and 10 lands? Tang Wan'er and the hidden dragon warriors knelt, their expressions solemn as they began the ritual. After preparing their offerings, Tang Wan'er took out a scroll imbued with the blessings of the Wind God Sea Pavilion. It was a sacred object that carried the gratitude of generations, but it was the first time someone actually managed to bring it here. Tang Wan'er began to recite, her voice filled with reverence. Seniors, thank you for saving the world. Your descendants will never forget your heroism. As her words echoed across the battlefield, heaven and earth trembled. The entire Wind Domain battlefield's aura shifted, growing vibrant and alive. Our ancestors can hear us? Someone cried out emotionally, tears streaming down her face. Tang Wan'er was also moved when she sensed a trace of Feng Wuji's spiritual fluctuations. It seemed that he really could hear her. With a quivering voice, she continued, "Senior's blessing is like that of the rising sun." As she continued the chant, the tremors intensified. The shaking was so strong that the group struggled to remain standing. To their shock, Feng Wuji's eyes slowly opened, followed by those of his comrades. The group nearly cried out in alarm. They had actually awakened the heroic spirits of their seniors. Though their eyes were open, they seemed unfocused, as if gazing at a distant past. Tang Wan'er continued her recitation, her voice trembling. The tremors grew stronger, and Feng Wuji's gaze gradually sharpened. When his eyes fell on Tang Wan'er, a trace of shock appeared on his face, followed by a faint smile of recognition. "There's no need to continue. We're back," Feng Wuji said. His voice was warm and reassuring, just like that of the neighborhood big brother. A comforting presence that could dispel all fear. "Senior," Tang Wan'er said, overwhelmed with emotion. All disciples kowtowed to their heroic seniors. However, Feng Wuji waved his hand, stopping Tang Wan'er from following them. "Your appearance is a wondrous thing," Feng Wuji said, his gaze filled with profound gratitude. Tang Wan'er was stunned. Feng Wuji spoke as if he knew her, but before she could respond, an explosive force rippled through the battlefield. The ground quaked violently, throwing Tang Wan'er and the others into the air. "What's happening?" cried out one of the disciples. Tang Wan'er and the others were stunned. Since Feng Wuji and the others were already awake, why was the world still shaking? "Do you have another comrade?" asked Feng Wuji, turning toward the disturbance. "Yes, there's one more person," Tang Wan'er replied, her heart racing. She immediately thought of Long Chun. "Let's go," Feng Wuji said. With a wave of his hand, he and the group vanished, leaving the solemn area behind. Boom! Long Chun, who was fleeing for his life, felt as if a meteorite had struck him. He was flung into the air, spinning wildly. When the void was destroyed, he could see countless human skulls flying through the air. Suddenly, the skulls started to explode one after another, releasing waves of intense suffering and murderous intent. Long Chun could feel their raw and unfiltered emotions: rage, humiliation, and despair. These skulls belonged to warriors who had fallen in battle, only to have their remains desecrated and enslaved by their enemies. That was the greatest humiliation to them. Luckily, Long Chen's attack had destroyed the altar, obliterating the devil runes that bound the skulls. With nothing binding them anymore, they chose to detonate so their enemies could no longer use them. Boundless fury and killing intent poured forth with each detonation, but it was ultimately futile. No matter how deep their anger ran, the power for vengeance was forever beyond their reach. "Seniors, go in peace. But don't rush too much. You might miss the moment he calls me daddy," Long Chun quipped, his tone flat despite the chaos. With a sweep of his wings, he stabilized himself mid-air and then stamped down with force, propelling himself deeper into the battlefield. Long Chun then reached out and caught Evil Moon as it flew back at him. Just now, due to his lack of control, his power had dispersed across the entire altar instead of concentrating on the blonde man. Although the man only endured a fraction of the blast, it still left him coughing blood and forced him away from the altar. Amidst the wreckage, Long Chun glimpsed 36 golden, wing heaven devils lying beneath the altar in a ritualistic formation. His head buzzed as he sensed their overwhelming auras. "Fuck! I couldn't be this unlucky, right?" Long Chun cursed furiously. The blonde man was already strong enough, and now there were 36 more golden wing heaven devils? Long Chun felt like going insane. But as his gaze sharpened, he realized these devils' souls emitted no fluctuations. They were just corpses. Corpses? Long Chen's eyes suddenly turned red. Without hesitation, Long Chen shot toward the golden wing heaven devils' bodies. Behind him, the blonde man, who had been blasted into the distance, was still struggling to recover. Unable to stop Long Chun, he could only watch as the scene unfolded. At first, the blond man was taken aback by Long Chen's actions. But moments later, his expression twisted into a sneer. In his eyes, Long Chen's intent was clear. He must be planning to destroy the corpses in some futile display of bravado. But then, these corpses were the pinnacle of power in the Wind Domain battlefield, far beyond what someone like Long Chun could handle, even in death. In that ancient battle, the blond man had followed these golden wing heaven devils. When the 8 trigram blood curse was unleashed, the 36 golden wing heaven devils endured the majority of its power and were cursed to death. As for the blond man himself, his weaker power allowed him to escape annihilation. In the wake of the curse, his soul was the first to rekindle its will, granting him a twisted form of sentience after death. After that, he painstakingly gathered their remains and constructed a powerful formation. By opening a space-time channel, he sought to steal fragments of primal chaos laws from the distant past, hoping to revive his fallen brethren. In truth, the countless half-step devil emperors and weaker devils on the altar had been sacrificed to awaken these 36 golden wing heaven devils, but to no avail. While these golden wing heaven devils were dead, there was no way Long Chun could damage their bodies. Thus, the blond man wasn't the slightest bit worried upon seeing Long Chun charge toward the corpses. A sneer curled the blond man's lips as he released his golden saber, forming intricate hand seals. He was preparing a powerful move while Long Chun attacked those corpses. When Long Chun grabbed one of the golden wing heaven devils, a terrifying force numbed his hand. What terrifying devil chi bloodline fluctuations! Long Chun muttered, awestruck. Yet, beneath that shock burned a manic excitement. With a roar, Long Chun mustered all his strength and heaved. The corpse, which felt heavier than a mountain, slowly rose into the air. Within the primal chaos space, a quivering resonance responded to his efforts. With a forceful toss, Long Chun hurled the corpse into the primal chaos space, where it disappeared in a flash. Success! Long Chen's excitement surged. Adrenaline coursed through him as he lunged for the next corpse. One after another, Long Chun grabbed the golden wing heaven devils, flinging their big bodies into the primal chaos space. In mere moments, he had secured 17 of the 36 corpses. Just as Long Chun went to grab the 18th, an intense chill ran down his spine. A streak of deadly saber chi surged toward him, making his hair stand on end. Instinctively, Long Chun abandoned the corpse and spun around, gripping Evil Moon with both hands. With a mighty swing, he met the incoming attack head-on. Boom! Evil Moon and the golden saber collided once more, the sheer force of the clash creating a deafening explosion. Both Long Chun and the blond man spat out blood as they were blown back. Hand over the golden wing blood emperors! The blond man roared. The blond man had been preparing a powerful move to trap Long Chun, intending to crush him completely. However, he had never anticipated that Long Chun would be capable of taking away the golden wing heaven devil's corpses. The realization struck him like lightning, and his soul practically fled in terror. Without hesitation, he launched an attack. "Fuck off! Those corpses are all mine!" shouted Long Chun, charing back. What kind of joke was that? Those were devil emperors from the primal chaos era. If the blond man refined them into puppets, wouldn't he be able to sweep through the heaven essence world with ease? An existence like this blond man? The thought of commanding an army of devil emperors made Long Chen's eyes gleam with greed. Without wasting time on his opponent, he dashed straight for the remaining corpses like a plundering bandit. "Bastard, you're courting death!" Seeing Long Chun brazenly attempting to snatch the corpses, the blond man panicked. His golden wings flared wide, and his saber blazed with an almost blinding light. In a fit of desperation, the blond man unleashed his full power. Devil Emperor pressure erupted from him, suffusing the battlefield. The surrounding space solidified as if frozen in time. "Evil Moon, wake up! You have to help me out!" shouted Long Chen. Long Chen's spiritual strength poured into Evil Moon as he needed Evil Moon awake. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to beat this fellow. Evil Moon quivered violently in his grip, responding to his call. A sinister aura burst forth, and countless malevolent runes spread across its blood-red blade. "End it quickly," shouted Evil Moon. It was clearly at an important juncture and didn't want to waste much time. It was clear Evil Moon was at a critical juncture and wanted to finish things quickly. The sudden resurgence filled Long Chun with renewed confidence. The starry sea of his astral energy once again spread across the battlefield, illuminating it with a brilliant, celestial glow. Earlier, when Long Chen's technique spiraled out of control, he still could withdraw his power. As a result, 80% of his astral energy still remained, ready to be unleashed. Again, 7 stars, waning moon slash. Long Chun roared as his starry sea twisted and surged into Evil Moon. This time, however, Evil Moon didn't passively accept the energy. It actively devoured it, leaving not a single drop behind. The world suddenly fell silent. An enormous dragon bone Evil Moon tore through the dome of the heavens and swung it down with unmatched divine might. The blond man was horrified to find that he actually couldn't move. "You little human, what qualifications do you have to be arrogant in front of the great heaven devil race?" he bellowed furiously. His golden wings unfurled to their full span, blazing with a divine radiance. 2 wing designs also emerged on his saber, glowing with an ancient power. With a deafening roar, devil chi exploded from his saber. The void around him cracked and shattered as he unleashed his counterattack. At that precise moment, a group of figures suddenly appeared on the battlefield. Tang Wan'er and the others arrived just in time to witness a scene that left them utterly stunned. Tang Wan'er and the others felt space twist around them, and they vanished from their original location. When they reappeared again, they were met with a devil might so immense it felt like their bodies and souls were being torn apart. Within this twisting space, they saw Long Chun swinging Evil Moon, like a starry river descending from the sky. Opposite him stood a terrifying blond man radiating overwhelming devil chi. When he attacked, even from afar, they felt a chill run through their spines. Although they had never encountered a true devil emperor before, the suffocating pressure left no doubt about his realm. Before they could process the scene, the 2 sabers clashed, and it was as if a blazing sun had erupted. The sun's blinding brilliance expanded rapidly, threatening to devour them all. Seeing this scene, the hidden dragon warriors cried out in terror. The destructive force of the clash was beyond comprehension. It definitely had enough power to erase them completely, leaving not even a trace of their existence behind. Most terrifying of all, the explosion surged forward so quickly that they had no time to react. Just as the devastating wave reached them, Tang Wan'er and the others felt the world around them collapse. A sensation of death overwhelmed them. But then, they realized they were still alive. The feeling of death was merely an illusion. In front of them stood a man, his hand raised in a one-handed seal. Divine light flowed out of him, forming a shield that protected them from the actual attack while allowing the sensation of death to pierce through as a trial. "The Wind God's lineage has endured even to this day," the man said with a faint smile, addressing the hidden dragon warriors. He was one of Feng Wuji's companions. The hidden dragon warriors had surpassed his expectations. Even when faced with a power they couldn't resist, their unyielding will remained unbroken. Such indomitable resolve was the true cornerstone of becoming an expert. If this kind of willpower were found in just 1 or 2 individuals, it would already be great. But for the entire Hidden Dragon Legion to possess such resolve, even the ancient experts from the Primal Chaos era found themselves deeply impressed. As the core of the sun-like explosion reached its peak, the void twisted violently, and 2 figures were hurled through the chaotic space. "Incredible," remarked one of the experts behind Feng Wuji. "As expected of a 9-star heir, they never disappoint," agreed another, nodding in acknowledgement. They had clearly discerned Long Chen's identity and the legendary legacy he bore. 2 more explosive sounds rang out as Long Chen and the blond man stabilized themselves. In a split second, the blond man spat out a mouthful of blood and formed a series of hand seals. A radiant golden rune then lit up on his forehead, recovering him from his injuries. Long Chen wasn't in a much better state. His body felt as though it might collapse at any moment, but rest was a luxury he couldn't afford. Gritting his teeth, he surged forward, intent on seizing the remaining corpses. "Brat, you're really asking for it?" roared the blond man. His rage erupted like a volcano when he realized that Long Chen was still pursuing the corpses. With a feral shout, he charged after Long Chen. Long Chen moved like lightning, snatching several more corpses just before the blond man's saber could strike him. Without hesitation, Long Chen shouted and hurled Evil Moon behind him. With a deafening explosion, the golden saber was severed cleanly. "What?" the blond man exclaimed, completely shocked. Unbeknownst to him, Evil Moon's previous attack had left a tiny nick in the blade, and this second strike had been perfectly aimed at that weak point, instantly shattering the golden saber. As for why Long Chen had thrown Evil Moon instead of wielding it with both hands, it was a calculated move. He knew that if he had held the weapon, he would have been forced to endure the full brunt of his own power. However, Evil Moon alone could break the damaged saber. The blond man's brief moment of disbelief proved fatal. In the blink of an eye, Long Chen closed the gap, his right hand launching toward the man's face with ferocity. "You shameless thing!" Long Chen snarled as his starlit hand landed with an earth-shaking force. The divine face-slapping technique had never let Long Chen down. In the past, it had been purely to humiliate his opponent. Its subtlety came from its lack of killing power, making it almost impossible to evade. This time, however, it wasn't meant to humiliate but to annihilate. At such a close distance, the blond man had no chance to dodge. Boom! The blond man's enormous head exploded in a shower of gore. Golden strands of hair scattered through the air, and devil blood rained down, staining the battlefield crimson. Under normal circumstances, the hidden dragon warriors would have cheered for Long Chen. But at this moment, they were completely stunned by what they had just seen. Long Chen seemed like a reborn god, nothing like the Long Chen they knew. With this attack complete, Long Chen seized Evil Moon once more and swung it in a seamless motion. "While these heroic spirits haven't gone too far, hurry up and call me daddy," shouted Long Chen with a mocking tone. Evil Moon's blade cleaved through the air, slicing the blond man's headless corpse cleanly in two at the waist. "Damn human! The Heaven Devil race will never submit to you. You will all die." The blond man's voice resounded eerily across the battlefield, even as his bisected body started to disintegrate. In an instant, the remains of his corpse detonated, transforming into a rain of blood. However, this wasn't ordinary blood. It didn't scatter or dissipate. Instead, it surged with a sinister will, racing toward the lifeless bodies of the other devils. "Not good!" exclaimed Long Chen. With a panicked expression, he shot toward the corpses, grabbing for the closest one. However, before he could secure it, a surge of terrifying blood chi erupted, forcing his hand back. Shocked, he realized faint spiritual fluctuations were emanating from the corpses. "Hey, don't just watch. Come help me out," Long Chen shouted at Feng Wuji and the others. Sensing their powerful auras, he immediately called for reinforcements. "Long Chen, don't be rude. This is Senior Feng Wuji," Tang Wanner interjected hastily, her tone filled with reprimand and worry. Feng Wuji, however, remained calm. "Little brother, your courage and power are truly impressive, but these are our destined foes. You've done enough. This battle that transcends time is one only we can end. Just help me sever their bloodline power, and I'll handle the rest." "What's with all the preaching?" snapped Long Chen, his impatience boiling over. The experts behind Feng Wuji couldn't believe this audacity, their expressions darkening. Just as they were about to scold him, Feng Wuji said, "Little brother, this is the will of the heavens. From the moment the 8 trigram blood curse activated, our confrontation with them was predestined. Our end is bound to theirs, and this fate cannot be altered." Hearing that, Tang Wanner realized that Feng Wuji and the others had come here to settle their karma with these devil creatures. This would be their final battle. It was precisely because Feng Wuji knew about this karma that he hadn't stopped the blonde man's self-detonation because he believed no one could, or perhaps because he had accepted this as inevitable. Suddenly, the corpses started to twitch. Their eyes flickered with life as a terrifying devil pressure descended upon the battlefield. What will of the heavens? What fate? That's all dogs hit. Long Chen roared, his voice shaking with defiance. If this is the will of the heavens, then I'll show you what it means to defy the heavens. As the golden wing heaven devils stirred, their awakening imminent, Long Chen's aura surged. He rapidly formed hand seals, and a thunderous sound echoed within him. Boom! His aura erupted like a raging storm, and in an instant, Long Chen advanced from the Earth Saint Realm to the Heaven Saint Realm. Above him, the heavens split apart. The 10,000 Das roared in fury as tribulation clouds gathered, shrouding the battlefield in ominous shadows. Tribulation clouds roiled across the land, shattering the laws of the wind domain battlefield and scattering them into chaos. At the heart of the tribulation, Long Chen stood tall, fearless even in the face of the golden wing heaven devils, who were about to awaken. Even Feng Wuji and the others were shocked, staring at him in disbelief. Who could have predicted that Long Chen intended to unleash heavenly tribulation against these ancient devil corpses? One by one, the towering figures of the golden wing heaven devils clawed their way up from the ground. But as they rose, bolts of lightning descended like divine wrath, engulfing them in a sea of destructive light. The golden wing heaven devils howled in fury, their devil runes igniting and smoldering under the assault of heavenly lightning. Even Feng Wuji and his group were not spared. Glowing runes appeared on their bodies, only to lift away and ignite into ephemeral flames. "What's going on?" exclaimed one of Feng Wuji's companions. They didn't understand what was happening. Only Feng Wuji remained calm, his eyes glimmering with understanding. He knew that the power of heavenly tribulation was their bane. Though their wills lingered, they were fundamentally dead. Hence, against the supreme yang force of heavenly lightning, their residual soul essence was doomed to annihilation. Heavenly tribulation represented the highest laws of this era, the strongest will of the heavenly Daos. As they were not of this era, they would be even more suppressed by the heavenly tribulation. Quick as a flash, Long Chen attacked the closest golden wing heaven devil. It roared and shielded itself with its wings, but his saber sheared them off cleanly. Even while restrained by the tribulation, the golden wing heaven devil sent Long Chen flying, blood spurting from his lips. But he immediately charged back. This golden wing heaven devil was already severely wounded. With a decisive slash, Long Chen's saber split its head in two, extinguishing its body and soul entirely. At this moment, the remaining golden wing heaven devils stirred, their revival accelerating. They let out earth-shaking roars and charged at Long Chen with murderous intent. Long Chen gritted his teeth, his grip on Evil Moon tightening as the saber spun in a deadly arc. In a flash, a golden wing heaven devil raked its claws across Long Chen's back, carving 5 bloody gashes so deep that bone glimmered beneath the wounds. "Fuck off!" Long Chen roared in fury, ignoring the searing pain. He swung Evil Moon with unmatched ferocity, shattering the devil's head in a burst of blood and bone. Another golden wing heaven devil fell to his blade. "We're joining in!" Feng Wuji and the others snapped out of their shock. Witnessing Long Chen single-handedly slay 2 golden wing heaven devils filled them with both awe and resolve. "There's no need. Save your remaining power for reincarnation. Hidden Dragon Legion. It's time to fight!" Long Chen bellowed, his voice like thunder, rallying his warriors to action. Long Chen knew that Feng Wuji and the others still had a bit of power remaining. However, once it was used up, they would vanish forever. If they instead preserved that final bit of energy to dispel the 8-trigram curse, they might have a chance at reincarnation. Hearing Long Chen's command, Tang Wan-er and her sisters immediately sprang into action. "Kill!" The hidden dragon warriors' cries shook the heavens. Even knowing they were facing devil emperors of the primal chaos era, They were fearless. Tang Wan'er summoned her manifestation, and her divine power erupted. The full moon in her manifestation quivered, concentrating its radiant light onto her blade. With a single strike, a golden wing heaven devil's head exploded, splattering blood and black mist into the air. Only after her attack landed did Tang Wan'er realize that these devils were greatly suppressed by the heavenly tribulation. Additionally, having just awakened, they were stiff and sluggish, far less fearsome than she had anticipated. Seeing Tang Wan'er kill one golden wing heaven devil on her own, the hidden dragon warriors were filled with confidence. The 8 divine retainers led 8 groups against them. Under this immense pressure, the hidden dragon warriors showed flawless cooperation and endured the first wave of attacks. Watching them fight, Feng Wuji and the others were amazed. Sovereign Blood Seal, God-slaying cross, Long Chun shouted, slamming his palm onto the chest of a golden wing heaven devil. Just then, Tang Wan'er's attack fell, killing it. Leave this to us, Tang Wan'er urged, noticing Long Chen's pale, sweat-soaked face. His breaths were ragged, and his spiritual fluctuations had grown chaotic, clear signs that he was nearing his limits. Long Chun counted the remaining golden wing heaven devils, 9 in total. Each of the 8 divine retainers was leading a group against one, while the last was left for Tang Wan'er to handle. Given her strength, it shouldn't be a problem. The supreme yang laws of the heavenly tribulation heavily suppressed these devils, stripping away the runes etched into their bodies. With every passing moment, their power diminished. Hence, the fact that the hidden dragon warriors had withstood the first wave of attacks meant victory was within reach. Long Chen nodded. After telling Tang Wan'er to be careful, he quickly consumed a medicinal pill, circulating the primal chaos space's energy to rapidly recover. Long Chen's confidence in challenging these devil creatures stemmed from his ultimate trump card, the Heaven Saint Tribulation. If worst came to worst, he could unleash the tribulation as his decisive weapon. Initially, Long Chun hadn't planned to rely on the tribulation. He was confident in his own strength. However, he hadn't anticipated that the blonde man would have so many terrifying golden wing heaven devils hidden in reserve. Fortunately, Long Chun had interrupted his plans. Had these devils fully revived, even Feng Wuji and the others wouldn't have been able to handle them. If these creatures escaped the wind domain battlefield, they would spell calamity for the human race. Above them, the tribulation clouds trembled violently as countless lightning swords rained down, accompanied by ferocious lightning monsters that attacked indiscriminately. Having experienced Long Chen's tribulations before, the hidden dragon warriors were prepared. Furthermore, thanks to Long Chun feeding them some special rhino meat, their physical bodies were much stronger, and this level of heavenly tribulation couldn't threaten them. In fact, the stronger the tribulation, the better it worked in their favor. The golden wing heaven devil's runes were being stripped away at a rapid pace, weakening them further. However, Feng Wuji and the others suffered the same fate, their auras growing fainter with each passing moment. Despite this, they remained calm and composed, even gratified. Their gazes turned to Long Chun, who was now seated in the air, meditating. Evil Moon was no longer by his side because it was at a critical juncture as well. Although Long Chun still looked pale and strained, he still exuded an invisible pressure. Feng Wuji's eyes flickered with a profound light as he stared at Long Chun. He muttered, "Perhaps the game-breaker we've been waiting for so long has finally appeared in this era." Boom! The final golden wing heaven devil was slain by Xiao Yu's sword. Its massive body crashed to the ground, signaling the true end of this earth-shaking battle. As its corpse fell, it was engulfed by lightning runes and vanished, reappearing in the black soil of the primal chaos space. The hidden dragon warriors stood victorious, though bloodied and battered. Cracks marred some of their bodies, as if they might shatter at any moment. But they ultimately managed to persevere despite the harrowing odds. Their victory felt almost surreal, like a fleeting dream. These were devil emperors from the primal chaos era, but they had fallen by their hands. The realization fortified the warriors' confidence, laying a solid foundation for their future battles. Though terrifying, the devil emperors had not fully awakened. The blonde man had forced their revival using his own essence blood, but they hadn't had time to absorb the power of heaven and earth before Long Chen's heavenly tribulation struck. Fortunately, this tribulation wasn't merely lightning filled with supreme yang power. It was the embodiment of this era's laws. Hence, it suppressed the devils completely, leaving them unable to unleash even 1% of their true might before succumbing. Their final deaths were as sullen as their half-assed revivals. Even so, they were terrifying existences. These were beings that the blonde man, for all his arrogance, referred to as senior brothers, a testament to their once terrifying power. The hidden dragon warriors had fought valiantly against them, but the battle was fraught with peril. Quite a few of them had walked right past the boundary of death. Yet, against all odds, there were no casualties. At this moment, the tribulation's power was continuously growing, along with its destructive will. Suddenly, millions of lightning dragons emerged from the tribulation clouds, each a manifestation of Lei Linger's split bodies. Previously, everyone had been using the tribulation power to counter the golden wing heaven devils. But now that they were all dead, this tribulation might harm the injured warriors if they let it continue raging. After that, the lightning dragons formed a giant shield that devoured all the incoming lightning, protecting the injured experts from the wild tribulation. Lei Linger's refinement then transformed the tribulation energy into a life-giving force that flowed into the warriors, rapidly accelerating their recovery. Of course, Lei Linger was also consuming some lightning to strengthen herself. Everyone recover quickly. Due to the Golden Wing Heaven Devils and these seniors being involved, space-time has twisted, and the tribulation's power is growing. This tribulation is a rare opportunity, a tempering that has crossed space-time. Don't let it slip away, said Long Chen, exiting his meditative state and looking at the quivering tribulation clouds. Hearing that, everyone immediately focused on themselves. No wonder they felt immense primal chaos chi from this tribulation, so it was the result of the twisting space-time. Long Chen, let me introduce you. Tang Wanner hurried to Long Chen's side, gesturing toward Feng Wuji and the others. Before she could continue, Feng Wuji said warmly, "There's no need for introductions. The name of the 9-star heirs is renowned across the realms. Little brother's divine power and unyielding will are truly extraordinary. You have the entire situation under control." The other experts behind Feng Wuji nodded along. Even with his Earth Saint cultivation base, Long Chen had been fearless against devil emperors. His unbending will was remarkable, leaving a deep impression on them. Long Chen, however, was a bit dissatisfied with these seniors. Had they arrived sooner, they could have prevented the blonde man's blood sacrifice and saved the valuable corpses. But with their praises directed at him, even someone as thick-skinned as Long Chen couldn't hold on to his resentment. He cupped his fists respectfully. "Junior was impulsive. Please forgive me." "You're far too modest," Feng Wuji replied, shaking his head. "The power we preserved was meant for one final battle to end this fateful struggle. But who could have expected that you, junior brother, would defy the heavens and sever our karmic ties? Thanks to you, we're now free from the blood curse's bindings. This favor is one we can only hope to repay in another lifetime." As he spoke, Feng Wuji bowed deeply to Long Chen, a gesture that startled him. "Senior, please don't," Long Chen exclaimed, hastily bowing as well. This was one of Tang Wanner's seniors, and he dared not accept a bow from him. Feng Wuji straightened, his gaze filled with relief and pride. "Our remaining strength has no other purpose, so we will bestow it upon the warriors of the Wind God's lineage. Meeting you all has been a true blessing." With those words, Feng Wuji slowly formed a hand seal. The other experts followed suit, their movements synchronized. Then Feng Wuji started to murmur an ancient chant. "Goodbye," he said softly, his voice tinged with finality. In an instant, Feng Wuji and the others dissolved into countless white runes, shimmering like fresh snow as they drifted toward Tang Wanner and the hidden dragon warriors. These sacred runes, brimming with profound energy, enveloped everyone present. A tremor ran through their bodies as a flood of knowledge and comprehension surged into their minds. Feng Wuji and the others had imparted their life's understanding of cultivation to them. However, it was restricted to their insights and comprehension, not their personal divine abilities. The reason for this was clear. If the seniors had simply given them all their knowledge, it would have hindered their future growth. Such direct inheritance would have placed a ceiling on their potential, making it difficult for them to surpass their seniors. However, giving them their insights and comprehension was different. It was like giving them more angles to look at problems, letting them find the answers easier. It would greatly increase their mental realms. Tang Wan'er and the others understood the preciousness of this gift. It was a rare blessing from their seniors, and they poured all their focus and strength into absorbing it. "Did they forget about me?" asked Long Chun, feeling left out. Long Chun was the only one present not receiving any of the white runes. He shook his head in frustration. If only Feng Wuji and the others had arrived sooner, perhaps the remaining Golden Wing Heaven Devil corpses wouldn't have been wasted. Suddenly, the world around them began to tremble. Long Chun felt the space outside the tribulation warping, its very structure growing unstable. The eight-gate curse is breaking down. The laws of the wind domain battlefield are crumbling, and this battlefield will cease to exist. Long Chen's heart sank. If the battlefield disappeared, would the sacrifices of the heroes be forgotten? As the heavenly tribulation shuddered violently, Long Chun glanced at Tang Wan'er and the others, who were rapidly absorbing the insights left behind by their seniors. But their physical bodies had reached their limit, unable to take in any more of the tribulation's power. Turning to Lei Linger, Long Chun spoke, "There's no need to hold back. The remaining thunder force is all yours." Boom! A deafening boom echoed as Lei Linger's excitement erupted. The millions of lightning dragons merged into one colossal dragon that soared into the sky. With a massive roar, it opened its mouth wide, and a swirling vortex appeared. Long Chen's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. The endless tribulation clouds were being drawn into the whirlpool, devoured entirely by Lei Linger. The sheer force of it took him by surprise. He hadn't expected such a display of power. Just then, he felt a sudden tremor in his dantian. His eternal runes were finally merging with his spirit root. The root chi now lay fully entwined with the eternal runes. Just as Long Chun wanted to see the changes this brought, a sensation of mortal danger suddenly washed over him. His hair stood on end. Something was coming. Instinctively, Long Chun turned his gaze toward the source of the threat. A figure with silver hair was charging at him, his eyes filled with a sinister glint. "Fuck! You really know how to pick a time." Long Chen cursed furiously. Just as Feng Wuji and the others vanished, Long Chen's heart sank. The fading of the eight-gate curse meant that the barrier surrounding the wind domain battlefield was now gone, and those outside could enter at will. His bad feeling intensified. Long Chun had Lei Linger quickly finish the tribulation, but he hadn't anticipated such a swift arrival from an enemy. The speed itself wasn't the worst part. It was who was arriving. It was the Silver Hair Void Crusher. If Long Chun were at his peak, he would face the Silver Hair Void Crusher without fear. But in his current state, heavily injured and exhausted with barely 30% of his full power, how could he possibly fight someone of the Silver Hair Void Crusher's caliber? Long Chen's luck was always abysmal, but this felt like outright bullying. It was as though everything had been orchestrated this way. Long Chun, now let's see where you can run to. The Silver Hair Void Crusher had been waiting for this moment. As soon as word of Long Chun reached him, he rushed to the wind domain battlefield, slipping in unnoticed. His target wasn't just Long Chun, it was the Earth Cauldron in his possession. The Heaven Earth Cauldron, one of the 10 great primal chaos items, was a priceless treasure that everyone coveted. Even the Silver Hair Void Crusher wasn't immune to its allure. "Peh, what are you talking about? The one who ran last time wasn't me," sneered Long Chun. Long Chen's mind raced. At this moment, he didn't have the power to fight the Silver Hair Void Crusher. He had to think of something. "You!" The Silver Hair Void Crusher almost spat out blood at Long Chen's response. "Last time, He had been careless, and Long Chen's white-robed form had dealt him a blow so serious that he was forced to retreat. Now, with his old wound ripped open by Long Chen's words, he seethed with anger. "Hand over the earth cauldron, and I'll consider leaving your corpse intact," shouted the silver hair void crusher. "If you want the earth cauldron, that's no problem. You just need to answer one of my questions," replied Long Chen solemnly. "What question?" "What was your mom's name?" "What?" For a moment, the silver hair void crusher was stunned, his mind struggling to process the absurdity of the question. Then it hit him: Long Chen was mocking him. "You're courting death." With a roar, the silver hair void crusher summoned his divine throne, and in an instant, Long Chen felt space around him freeze. The pressure suffocating him was far more intense than before. Long Chen's heart shook. How could the silver hair void crusher be this much stronger than last time? "Fool, do you think I only had that little bit of power? Let me tell you, last time, I couldn't fully unleash the power of my divine throne. Though I can't fully control it yet, I've established a resonance with it. This god power is something an ant like you cannot resist." The silver hair void crusher sneered. "Hand over the earth cauldron." The silver hair void crusher's voice trailed off as he noticed Tang Wan'er and the others, now surrounded by divine light. What pure god energy! As a god cultivator himself, he could sense the sacred energy left by Feng Wuji and the others. Suddenly, his gaze changed and a malicious grin appeared on his face. "If you don't hand over the earth cauldron, I'll crush those girls behind you," the silver hair void crusher threatened, thinking of using them as hostages against Long Chen. The next moment, his hand stretched toward Tang Wan'er. His sharp vision had quickly deduced that her relationship with Long Chen was far from ordinary. But before he could reach her, a spear of lightning, charged with heavenly might, shot toward him. "You again! Die!" the silver hair void crusher roared. Recognizing Lei Linger's aura, he furiously slammed his palm at her. After all, he had suffered immensely because of her last time. Boom! Lei Linger's lightning spear exploded on impact, throwing her back. On the other hand, the silver hair void crusher was shocked to find his hand bleeding heavily, his bones exposed. Primal chaos energy. How is that possible? He had never expected Lei Linger's attack to contain the laws of primal chaos. While his divine throne could block most attacks, this was something else entirely. Before the silver hair void crusher could react, a figure appeared in the sky: Hualinger, chanting the Nirvana scripture. With his hand on Hualinger's back, Long Chen poured in what little spiritual strength he had left. Behind Hualinger, the space started to crack open, and one giant sun after another appeared, each bursting to reveal a massive golden crow. In an instant, thousands of golden crows filled the sky, absorbing the fiery energy of the world dry thanks to the Nirvana scripture. An enormous flame lotus then appeared in Hualinger's hand, devouring all the golden crows and rapidly shrinking until it was no larger than a palm. In the process, the world's heavenly Tao screamed in agony, and the entire domain seemed to quiver. The silver hair void crusher felt a chill run through him when he saw countless tiny golden crows flying on the small flame lotus. This thing could spell his doom. Distracted by the flame lotus, the silver hair void crusher failed to notice Lei Linger's next move. Lightning runes condensed into a sword as she snuck behind him. Scram! The silver hair void crusher raised his hand, summoning his sword. His divine throne trembled as sword chi slashed toward her. Lei Linger's lightning sword shattered on impact, but the silver hair void crusher knew this was just a diversion. Suddenly, he felt a cold, deadly sensation on his back. A pitch-black saber had stabbed him. What? He spun around, and to his shock, he saw Long Chen standing before him with evil moon in hand, its tip already piercing his body. Unfortunately, the silver hair void crusher's protective divine light was overwhelmingly powerful. Long Chen's attack had managed to stab only 3 inches into his back. Unable to penetrate further, the silver hair void crusher's shock quickly turned to fury. He had clearly seen Long Chen behind Hualinger, How had Long Chun suddenly appeared behind him? Before he could react, Huolinger seemed to teleport, materializing in front of him. Without hesitation, she slammed the small flame lotus into his chest. All of you can die. Brahma's wrath, world extermination light. The silver hair void crusher roared, his divine throne shifting from behind him to hover above. Its divine light cascaded down, enveloping him in a protective barrier. Then, with a deafening explosion, the divine light erupted outward, spreading in all directions. The moment this divine light appeared, Long Chen's soul froze, and an intense sensation of death enveloped him. With no time to pull out Evil Moon, he shot back like a bolt of lightning, knowing that if he were to be struck by this divine light, he would definitely die. As he retreated, Lei Linger surged forward, her lightning-clad form bypassing him just in time to intercept the divine light. Boom! Lei Linger shattered into countless lightning runes upon impact, and the force of the detonation sent Long Chun tumbling through the air, blood spraying from his mouth as the relentless divine light caught up to him. The divine light squeezed his body mercilessly, contorting it as his bones fractured under the immense pressure. It felt as though his entire body might collapse. Just then, Tang Wan'er and the others woke up from their meditative state. They barely had time to register the divine light before it slammed into them. However, the divine runes surrounding their bodies mitigated much of the damage, leaving them shaken but not gravely injured. Just then, another explosive sound rang out. Huolinger's flame lotus had passed through the divine light and struck the silver hair void crusher. The silver hair void crusher had unleashed the power of the divine throne, channeling a fragment of Lord Brahma's divine might. It was an unstoppable, indomitable force, capable of annihilating all existences beneath the divine emperor realm with ease. However, his mastery over the divine throne was trash. He could only wield a trace of its immense power. That fragment, though, was devastating enough to overwhelm most foes. Yet, Huolinger's attack carried a ferocity that could not be ignored. It embodied her full strength and the combined might of the Golden Crows, which were then compressed to the limit. On the other hand, the silver hair void crusher's attack expanded outward like an all-encompassing wave, its power diffused across the battlefield. Huolinger exploited this, focusing her attack into a single piercing strike. As a result, though the crusher's divine energy had gravely wounded Lei Linger and Long Chun, it failed to halt Huolinger's assault. The moment the flame lotus collided with the divine light, it twisted wildly, as though alive and struggling against an unyielding force. Space itself seemed to freeze, suspended in a fragile stillness. Then, with a violent rupture, the lotus pierced through the divine barrier and struck the silver hair void crusher directly. Boom! Huolinger and the lotus detonated in unison, unleashing a massive explosion that consumed the sky. A blazing mushroom cloud rose, tearing through the heavens as shards of shattered spacetime scattered like fragments of a broken mirror. The silver hair void crusher staggered, a guttural gasp escaping him as he spat out a mouthful of blood. A gaping, bloodied wound could be seen in his chest, threatening to split him in two. The silver hair void crusher's expression was twisted with fury. Despite his vigilance and overwhelming power, he had been injured once again. It was an insult to his pride that he could not endure. "Damn brat!" he roared, his voice quaking with fury as he shot toward Long Chun. But before he could strike, a wave of chilling sword chi descended from above. Boom! The silver hair void crusher raised his palm, shattering the sword chi in a single blow. When the dust settled, a graceful figure stood between him and Long Chun. "Wan'er, move aside. Let me deal with him." Long Chen's voice was strained, blood dripping from his lips. Despite his injuries, he still had cards to play. "No," Tang Wan'er replied firmly, her gaze unwavering as she raised her sword. "This time, I'll protect you. I've sworn to myself countless times that one day, I would stand before you, shielding you from the storm." "Wan'er, cough." Long Chen's voice faltered, followed by a violent cough that brought up more blood. Xiao Yu and the others rushed to support him, and Tang Wan'er gestured for them to retreat. "Take him back. I'll deal with this guy myself." The silver hair void crusher eyed Tang Wan'er with a contemptuous smile and said, "Since you want to die in front of him, I don't mind fulfilling your wish. Then we'll see if you have that ability," Tang Wan'er said coldly. She swung her sword in a slow arc, and her manifestation changed, revealing a luminous full moon. Within the moon's glow, the silhouette of a slender, otherworldly woman emerged. Though her features were obscured, those who could see her could feel her unmatched, divine grace. The next moment, Tang Wan'er blazed with sacred light, and the air around her changed, becoming noble and aloof, like a goddess of the 9 heavens. Sacred light surged around her, intertwining with the divine runes in her manifestation and pouring into her sword. Long Chen's eyes widened as he connected the dots, a shocking thought flashing through his mind. Could it be? Just then, Tang Wan'er pointed her sword at the heavens. After that, countless divine runes flowed out of her manifestation and into the sword. What? The silver hair void crusher's face darkened, his instincts screaming danger. With a flicker of intent, the divine commander blade materialized in his hand. As one of the 8 great divine commanders, his connection to divine energy was unparalleled, and he instantly recognized the nature of Tang Wan'er's attack. It was infused with true divine energy. The full moon in Tang Wan'er's manifestation was just like his divine throne. She was channeling divine energy directly from it, a feat he hadn't anticipated. Under normal circumstances, an attack like this would have posed little threat. However, the silver hair void crusher was far from his peak, his body ravaged by repeated injuries. The gaping wound in his chest remained open, and enduring another attack of this magnitude was beyond him. Acting decisively, he lunged forward to intercept her. Tang Wan'er's voice resonated like a sacred hymn. "Great wind god, hear your disciples' call. With your unmatched divine power, help your disciples slaughter evildoers. Evil execution wind moon slash." Her sword descended in a sweeping arc, and with it came a divine will so overwhelming that it seemed to split the very heavens. The clash was cataclysmic. Her blade collided with the silver hair void crushers, and a violent eruption of divine energy followed. In an instant, Long Chun formed a series of hand seals and opened one of his shut eyes. Just as he was about to unleash the purgatory eyes to drag Tang Wan'er out of the explosion radius, he saw a figure appear in front of her. Yi Lingkong raised his hand and twisted the void, forming a giant shield that protected Tang Wan'er. As the explosion subsided and the chaos settled, people saw the silver hair void crusher with his hair in disarray. His face was pale, and blood dripped steadily from his sword. His arm was riddled with countless cracks, barely holding together. Tang Wan'er's attack had come dangerously close to shattering it completely. Long Chun exhaled in relief upon seeing Yi Lingkong. "Brother, you finally arrived. Any later, and we'd have been done for. Friend, let's leave things here," Yi Lingkong said as he eyed the bloody silver hair void crusher. Seeing the stalk of grass perched between Yi Lingkong's lips and his nonchalant behavior, the silver hair void crusher was overcome with fury. "Who is your friend? Die!" The silver hair void crusher roared, swinging the divine commander blade at Yi Lingkong. Boom! The silver hair void crusher's attack contained the power of his divine throne, and it was incredibly powerful. Yet, as the powerful force surged forth, a broadsword etched with ancient runes intercepted it. Not only did the blade halt the attack, but it also absorbed and dispersed the shockwaves, leaving the battlefield unerringly calm. Long Chun and the others had been bracing themselves, wondering how they would withstand such an impact. In Long Chen's weakened state, enduring this kind of attack was unthinkable. Beside him, Tang Wan'er was equally vulnerable as she was still pale from using a forbidden technique. Even so, Long Chun instinctively pulled her behind him, shielding her with his own body. This was Long Chen's nature. As long as he had even a sliver of strength left, he would never let harm come to his woman. Seeing that everything was within Yi Lingkong's control, he sighed in relief. Watching Long Chen place himself in harm's way despite his dire state, Tang Wan'er felt both moved and pained. She had thought that utilizing this forbidden technique would allow her to protect him, but the reality fell short of her expectations. In truth, Tang Wan'er's strength wasn't lacking. The problem was the enemy she faced. The silver hair Void Crusher wasn't just any foe. He was one of Lord Brahma's 8 great divine commanders, a position that symbolized unparalleled might. At this moment, the silver hair Void Crusher growled in frustration, pressing down with his divine commander blade. However, no matter how much force he exerted, he couldn't move Yi Lingkong's broadsword. Shadow power. You are from the shadow race? The silver hair Void Crusher exclaimed, startled. Yi Lingkong's expression looked calm as he held the broadsword with a single hand, a strange, swirling aura enveloping him. He replied, "What race I'm from isn't important. What is important is that you are heavily wounded, and the wind god's power has damaged the core of your divine throne. Have you not noticed your throne starting to tremble? If you don't stop now, your throne might abandon you. Then the name of the 8 great divine commanders will no longer have anything to do with you." This swirling aura around Yi Lingkong resembled an invisible vortex, continuously siphoning energy from the surroundings, even drawing away some of the silver hair Void Crusher's strength. Shadow race. Long Chen's mind raced. Was Yi Lingkong truly from the shadow race? His surname, Yi meaning night, stirred a memory within Long Chen, the heartless wind moon, Feng Xinyue, the shadow of the night Yi Wuxing. Could Yi Lingkong be connected to Dong Mingyu's master, the legendary assassin feared across the 9 heavens and 10 lands? The silver hair Void Crusher's eyes blazed with fury. Even if my divine throne is shaking, I can still kill you. Yi Lingkong smirked. That's ambitious. But let me remind you, I am the left emissary of the wind god. I can channel more of the wind god's power than even a divine daughter. If Tang Wan'er's power alone could damage your throne, what do you think I could do? At your peak, perhaps you might have stood a chance. But now, you're just wasting my time. I don't like working for nothing, and I know that I can't kill you. Do yourself a favor and leave before you embarrass yourself further. You! The silver hair Void Crusher roared in frustration, slamming his divine commander blade down repeatedly. Yet, no matter how many times he struck, he couldn't shake Yi Lingkong. Before coming here, he had meticulously prepared to deal with Long Chen, whom he viewed as cunning and unpredictable. But despite his caution, he had been severely injured. Huolinger's earlier attack had struck him with the combined might of the Yensu Flame, the Sun Flame, the Moon Flame, the Ice Soul Divine Flame, and countless other flames, many of which ranked within the top 10 of the Heavenly Flame ranking. Even he, a divine commander, couldn't completely suppress the residual flame laws burning within his body. For now, his divine throne had suppressed them, but the cost was immense. His clash with Tang Wan'er had further destabilized his injury, leaving him gravely wounded once more. He had never imagined that a mere girl could channel such pure divine energy, let alone harm the core of his throne. This throne, imbued with its own will, was loyal only to Lord Brahma. To put it frankly, it was a gift to the divine commanders. If the silver hair Void Crusher faltered, it would erase his seal, essentially crippling him, and then find a different divine commander candidate. The thought sent chills down his spine. This divine throne was an opportunity that he had waited countless years to obtain, so he naturally didn't dare to risk it. You wait. The silver hair Void Crusher pointed at Long Chen, gnashing his teeth. He had never hated someone so much in his life. Last time you said the same thing. Just leave already. Long Chen shot back, his voice dripping with mockery. Seriously, go back and train properly. Every time you show up, you end up more pathetic than before. If your parents saw this, they'd be heartbroken. You! The silver hair Void Crusher's face turned crimson with rage, and a sudden cough sent blood splattering from his lips. His throne quivered ominously as the wounds inflicted by Huolinger flared up again. If you're leaving, then just go, Long Chen continued, his sneer unwavering. But don't leave a bloody mess. It's disgusting. In truth, Long Chun was on the verge of attacking the Silver Hair Void Crusher. However, he knew that actually killing this idiot would be impossible. As long as that throne was present, even if this idiot was at the end of his rope, even Yi Lingkong wouldn't be able to stop him from leaving. Thus, Yi Lingkong couldn't be bothered to attack him, knowing that it would be in vain. "All of you just wait!" the Silver Hair Void Crusher roared, vanishing. He had to immediately heal his injuries. Moreover, he was afraid he would die from rage if Long Chen's vicious mouth struck again. "How curious. Why didn't that group of fools show up?" asked Long Chen. In theory, those experts outside the Wind Domain battlefield should have immediately come here. However, other than them, there was no one here. That idiot set up a divine barrier so no one but me could enter. He was quite unlucky. This divine barrier exhausted an enormous amount of divine energy, replied Yi Lingkong, shrugging. In other words, the Silver Hair Void Crusher's greed had backfired. He had intended to trap the Earth Cauldron with this barrier, but it had weakened him significantly, making him vulnerable to Long Chun and Tang Wan'er's attacks. After all, Lord Brahma's 8 great divine commanders were renowned for their unmatched strength. For one of them to be reduced to such a pitiful state by 2 disciples was nothing short of astonishing. Alas, the Silver Hair Void Crusher's greed ran deeper than anticipated. "He's dispelled the barrier. Those people are going to arrive soon," said Yi Lingkong, his tone calm yet decisive. "I'd rather not waste time dealing with them, so I'll take everyone back. Long Chun, will you be joining us, or?" "I won't be," replied Long Chun, shaking his head. "I'm heading southwest. Once I cross a stream of chaotic space, I'll reach the Dragon Domain." Long Chun then turned to Tang Wan'er, his gaze softening. Tang Wan'er was also reluctant to part ways with him, but she knew that he had to rejoin with the Dragon Blood warriors. Swallowing her reluctance, she offered him a few final words of encouragement. Long Chun bade farewell and flew southwest by himself, vanishing from sight. "Let's move," Yi Lingkong commanded. With a wave of his hand, the space around them distorted, enveloping the group. In the next instant, they disappeared. A moment later, countless experts charged over from every direction. But they were one step too late. All that greeted them was a desolate battlefield. Its silence a stark contrast to the battle that had raged moments before. An enormous spatial crack stood in front of Long Chun, stretching hundreds of miles wide, reaching far into the heavens like a scar torn through the fabric of reality. The jagged edges of the crack resembled the aftermath of a violent earthquake, while dark red spatial currents churned within, radiating an ominous hum that made the air itself tremble. No one truly knew how this crack had formed. Feng Xinyue told Long Chun that it was like a cascading waterfall. By stepping through it, he would arrive directly in the Dragon Domain. This was the quickest path to his destination, but it came at a cost. Traversing this chaotic space required an extraordinary physical body, a resilient soul, and an indomitable will. The crushing spatial blades would test one's body, while the malicious entities within tested the mind. Feng Xinyue had explained that this chaotic current was filled with the tormented spirits of countless experts from the primal chaos era. These spirits, unable to enter heaven, hell, or the reincarnation cycle, were eternally trapped in this spatial purgatory. When any living creature ventured into this realm, these vengeful spirits would attack without mercy, attempting to possess the intruder's soul. If they couldn't, they would unleash various illusions to bewilder the intruder and draw them into a stupor for the rest of eternity. Standing at the edge of this abyss, Long Chun halted. He couldn't proceed in his current state. He needed to recover. The battle against the Silver Hair Void Crusher had left him in ruins. That devastating wave of divine light had shattered every bone in his body, leaving him reliant on Huolinger and Lei Linger to reach this place. However, they had also reached their limit. The Silver Hair Void Crusher was simply too powerful. His divine throne was a cheat item. Fortunately, Huolinger and Lei Linger recovered quickly, condensing into dragons within the primal chaos space. Around them, the reborn golden crows flitted like delicate butterflies, voraciously absorbing energy from the Fusong trees. Silver Hair Void Crusher, Long Chen muttered, his voice laced with determination. You just wait. Next time, I'll beat you so hard your face will look like a pig's, or I'm not Boss Long San. His frustration was justified. After advancing to the Heaven Saint realm, Long Chen had been brimming with confidence. He had crushed countless Silver Wing Heaven Devils, faced the Blonde Man, and battled the Golden Wing Heaven Devils, all without hesitation. But by that point he was exhausted. For the Silver Hair Void Crusher to appear at his weakest was truly unlucky for him. Long Chen wanted to fight with the Silver Hair Void Crusher again, feeling like even if he couldn't match the latter blow for blow, he could at least hold his ground and preserve his life. But reality proved otherwise. The Silver Hair Void Crusher had arrived at the worst possible moment, when Long Chen was already drained from consecutive battles. If not for Yi Lingkong's timely intervention, Long Chen would have suffered a devastating defeat. The situation was frustrating, but Long Chen had long grown accustomed to such misfortune. Where someone else might have been consumed by rage, he simply acknowledged the reality. Anger alone wasn't useful. It was power that decided everything. If he were truly strong, he could have slain the Silver Hair Void Crusher even in his weakened state. That was the essence of absolute power. After suppressing his anger, Long Chen began healing. As he calmed his mind, a warm current surged from his dantian, flowing through his limbs. The soothing energy mended his shattered bones with remarkable speed. This is? Long Chen's eyes lit up in surprise. In his dantian, the 3 leaves formed by his eternal runes spun slowly, and at their center burned a vibrant flame, his root chi. The 3 leaves and the flame had fused, forming a unique 3-petal flower. As the flower rotated, eternal runes traveled with his root chi, entering his bones and mending them. The process was miraculous. The runes transformed into a viscous, golden liquid that seeped into the fractures. When his bones healed, faint spots of light, tiny eternal runes, appeared within them. At first, the spots seemed insignificant, but Long Chen quickly realized their importance. The eternal runes were etching themselves into his bones, strengthening them with every cycle of damage and repair. Hold on! Long Chen suddenly cried out. He threw himself into a boulder, shattering his barely repaired bones once more. His root chi tirelessly healed them again, and as expected, his bones strengthened once more. Seeing this incredible transformation, Long Chen, like a madman, started hurling himself into the hardest rocks he could find. With every collision, his root chi worked tirelessly to repair his shattered bones, each cycle infusing them with even more eternal runes. This must have been how his eternal runes were meant to function all along. Until now, he hadn't understood their true potential or how to activate them. It was clear now. His eternal runes needed to pass through his spirit root's flame to be refined and activated. Only then could they have any use. In the end, his eternal runes were branded on top of his bones, forming an unbreakable bond that spread through every fiber of his being. Long Chen could clearly feel the rapid growth of his bones. With each cycle of destruction and recovery, they became significantly more robust. After all, the bones were the true foundation of the body's strength, the unyielding support system that determined how much power the body could unleash. The stronger Long Chen's bones became, the greater his potential to wield overwhelming force. Like a madman, Long Chen threw himself into mountains, reducing them all into ruins. When he found himself recovering too quickly, he resorted to striking his own body to slow the healing process, prolonging the enhancement of his bones. He spent a full 2 hours pushing himself through this brutal cycle. With each self-inflicted injury and recovery, the power of his bones skyrocketed. By the end of his efforts, no matter how hard he tried, he could no longer damage them. They had reached their peak strength and fully healed. Testing his newfound power, Long Chen unleashed a punch. A massive true void opened in front of him, distorting space itself. The void writhed as torrents of energy rippled outward in all directions. Ha ha! The power of my physical body has multiplied by at least 10-fold. Long Chen exclaimed in astonishment. The leap in his strength was beyond anything he had anticipated. With the completion of his eternal bones, his physical body had reached a new level of dominance. Before, it had been his muscles that carried his strength, but his bones had lagged behind, unable to fully support or amplify his power. Now, with his bones reforged and perfected, his physical might surged to unimaginable heights, stunning himself. Silver Hair Void Crusher. Next time we meet, I'll be the one doing the crushing. Long Chen roared, clenching his fist tightly. After advancing to the Heaven Saint realm, Long Chen had finally unlocked the ability to wield eternal power, a force that required passing through his spirit root to manifest. Once his broken bones were healed, the eternal energy started fixing the rest of his wounds. Curious, Long Chen attempted to injure himself further, hoping to strengthen his flesh and blood through the same process. However, he soon realized there was no strengthening effect this time. He discovered that his bloodline power seemed to repel the eternal runes, preventing them from infusing into his flesh or blood. Their activity remained confined to his dantian and bones. 3 days later, Long Chen had mostly recovered. Although not completely healed, the transformation in his combat power was staggering. The Long Chen of today and the one before his advancement were worlds apart. Inspecting his starry sea, Long Chen noted that it had undergone a profound change. After the ancient battle in a different spacetime, it had gone through a qualitative transformation. The 8 stars were no longer the same. They were now adorned with faint, swirling primal chaos runes. Although the runes appeared translucent, they possessed incomparable strength. However, harnessing that power proved more challenging than expected. It would require even more astral energy. Yet, Long Chen wasn't troubled by this, thanks to an unexpected ally, the radiant world star crystal. The little crystal darted playfully through his starry sea, occasionally wandering into the Fengfu, Alioth, Life Fate, and other stars. It examined the new runes with a peculiar curiosity, even interacting with them. After each interaction, the crystal would return to his starry sea and curl into a strange seal. This seal acted as a conduit, allowing Long Chen's starry sea to commune with the stars above the heavens. Through this connection, energies transferred seamlessly, guided by the radiant world star crystal. Regarding the radiant world star crystal, Long Chen didn't know much about it. Even the Earth Cauldron didn't explain too much, simply mentioning that it was very useful to him. Without clear guidance on how to nurture or assist the crystal, Long Chen had no choice but to let it do as it wished. Now, it was helping him once more, so Long Chen decided to just be a lazy person, letting it transform his astral energy on its own. Long Chen turned his attention to the primal chaos space, and what he saw left him awestruck. The spiritual qi within had reached a staggering density, infused with primal chaos qi. The entire space pulsed with the profound and ancient laws of primal chaos, its every corner alive with power. The Fusang trees and moon trees stood out prominently, their auras growing increasingly frightening. Their flame energy had reached a level of purity that even Long Chen found awe-inspiring. As for the heavenly Dao tree and the 7 treasure-colored glass tree, new runes had appeared on their trunks, branches, and leaves, layering them with a deeper sense of mystery. Beneath the heavenly Dao tree was the mysterious vine. It had grown to 3 feet tall, its thickness matching that of a pinky finger. Although still in its juvenile stage, the vine's black lightning crackled ferociously, exuding a sinister aura that made Long Chen instinctively wary. However, as he approached, the vine's leaves began to wave gently, like a child shyly reaching out for affection. Curious, Long Chen extended his hand, cautiously brushing against one of its leaves. The moment his fingers touched the defensive aura surrounding it, a tingling sensation surged through his body, making the hairs on his arms stand on end. Despite the oppressive energy, Long Chen sensed no hostility. Its black lightning and black qi carried a naturally sinister aura, yet its core felt pure and not dangerous. When his hand made full contact with the leaf, a wave of spiritual fluctuations coursed through him. He could sense just how much it cared about him. It seemed to truly view him as a parent and wasn't wary of him. The vine quivered slightly, as if trying to express something to him. However, its fluctuations were too complex for Long Chun to understand. "Don't worry. Just grow up peacefully. Perhaps we'll be able to communicate once you grow up," consoled Long Chun. The vine ceased quivering as if it could understand him. It slowly drew back to the heavenly Tao tree and stopped moving. Long Chen's gaze shifted upward to the tree itself, its towering form as enigmatic as ever. He had never fully understood what kind of existence it was. It was just as mysterious as the primal chaos space. Interestingly, the vine appeared to hold a certain reverence for the heavenly Tao tree. Despite the vine's ferocious aura, it seemed hesitant, creeping toward the tree with deliberate caution. In contrast, the heavenly Tao tree stood aloof, exuding an air of majesty and pride, as though it didn't deem the vine worthy of acknowledgement. Long Chun then looked up and saw a sun-like golden lotus seed floating there. The entire primal chaos space was filled with vitality under its light. Looking at the golden lotus seed, Long Chun couldn't help but think of that graceful and noble Aunt Gong, whose eyes were filled with wisdom. This lotus seed was a gift from her, yet she had vanished since that day, leaving him with unanswered questions. The lotus seed, however, had undergone a transformation. After Long Chun had killed countless devil creatures, it now radiated a boundless energy that Long Chun could clearly sense. Curiously, this energy was devoid of any destructive force. It couldn't be wielded to harm or destroy, but its power instinctively drew out reverence from people's souls. Up to now, Long Chun had only been able to use the seed's power in specific circumstances, against the Yen Su lineage or to counter the Ghost Sovereign's influence. Beyond those rare instances, he was unable to form a connection with it, no matter how hard he tried. Yet, simply holding the seed brought him a sense of warmth and peace. Its tranquil energy soothed his soul, grounding him amidst the chaos of his journey. Long Chun smiled faintly. There were so many mysteries he had yet to uncover. The golden lotus seed, the earth cauldron, Dragonbone Evilmoon's new body, the heavenly Tao tree, the 7 treasure-colored glass tree, and the omnipotent primal chaos space. Each was a riddle waiting to be solved. Reflecting on it all, Long Chun sighed. "There's so much I don't know. Who I am, where I'm headed. Everything feels like a puzzle. But maybe time holds the answers to these secrets." He shook his head, dispelling the fleeting melancholy. "No matter what, one day I'll uncover it all. Every secret, every truth. But first, I need to survive. Everything depends on that." After that, Long Chun turned his attention to a corner of the primal chaos space. There, 22 corpses of golden wing heaven devils lay in a heap. Seeing them, Long Chun smiled with anticipation. "I wonder how many of you I can refine into puppets," he mused with a grin. "I'm looking forward to it." Forming a series of intricate hand seals, Long Chun spread his palms wide. After that, large blood-colored runes appeared before him, slowly floating onto one of the corpses. As the blood curse runes fell onto the corpse, Long Chun felt his spiritual strength and violet blood energy plummet. Half of his spiritual strength was consumed in an instant, and nearly 80% of his violet blood energy drained away. The sheer scale of the consumption left him stunned. As expected of a devil emperor's corpse, "If I succeed," Long Chen's heart pounded hard. Violet-colored divine light enveloped the corpse, flowing through its body before gathering in its eyes. Slowly, the corpse began to quiver, and its eyes opened. The golden pupils now gleamed with violet runes. "Success!" Long Chun muttered, unable to believe his eyes. He actually succeeded on his first try? Could he really be that lucky? To test it, Long Chun struck the puppet's body with his fist. A resounding boom echoed as its dormant devil runes started to awaken. Moments later, a massive vortex formed above the puppet's head, voraciously absorbing the primal chaos space's energy. Seeing that, Long Chun was delighted. The blond man had failed to awaken these corpses, leaving their runes to wither. But now, as Long Chen's puppet, the primal chaos space tacitly accepted it as one Long Chen's people, allowing it to absorb the energy here to nourish itself. As it continuously absorbed the primal chaos space's energy, its aura grew increasingly frightening. In just a moment, the might of an emperor radiated, as if it really was coming back to life. Long Chen knew better. It wasn't regaining life. Its runes were simply reactivating. Yet, he couldn't help but wonder how much combat power it could wield once fully awakened. I wonder if it'll be suppressed by the silver hair Void Crusher's divine throne? Long Chen wondered. Part of him was eager to test the Devil Emperor puppet against the Void Crusher, but he hesitated. That throne contained Lord Brahma's will, and its divine energy might suppress the curse runes, causing him to lose control of the puppet. If that were to happen, he would cry on the spot. Well, it's better if I deal with the silver hair Void Crusher myself anyway. You can just be my fighter, said Long Chen. Long Chen smiled slightly as he eyed the Devil Emperor puppet. Other than the silver hair Void Crusher, who could block it? Long Chen then formed another series of hand seals, preparing to unleash the blood curse on another puppet, only to hastily stop halfway. He almost forgot that he had used up too much of his spiritual strength and bloodline power. Without sufficient spiritual strength and violet blood energy, failure was guaranteed. After resting a moment, Long Chen used the curse art again. However, he wasn't so lucky this time. The moment the blood curse formed, the golden wing heaven devil's body swelled rapidly. Realizing the imminent failure, Long Chen quickly tossed the body into the black soil. The corpse exploded, but the black soil absorbed the impact, leaving behind only a 300-meter crater. 3 more corpses exploded in succession, making Long Chen break out in a cold sweat. Don't do this. After giving me a taste of success, you're slapping me in the face, Long Chen begged. Fortunately, his next attempt succeeded, calming his nerves. From then on, his success rate was relatively steady. By the end, out of 22 corpses, 8 fully functional Devil Emperor puppets stood ready. This success rate was beyond Long Chen's expectations, delighting him. He then left them here to absorb the primal chaos space's energy. Their strength would depend on how much energy they accumulated. Once their runes were depleted, however, they would become dormant, unable to recharge anymore. In any case, they were still better than the silver wing heaven devils he had scammed out of the green parrot. The latter's corpses were much weaker. Their runes were half destroyed, limiting their energy capacity. In other words, each corpse could only unleash a single attack before crumbling. Even if he didn't unleash their full power in one attack, the remaining energy would dissipate along with their runes, rendering them useless. However, these golden wing heaven devils were different. Their runes were still intact and tough, which meant they could fight as long as they still had energy in their bodies. Suddenly, Evilmoon's sinister laughter rang out. Hee, they don't look bad. Why don't I try fighting one? Don't mess around. These are my strongest fighters. Wait. You're awake. Long Chen's annoyance turned into surprise and delight. He turned to look at Evil Moon, only to leap back in shock. What the hell? When did you start smoking? Evil Moon floated midair, shrouded in a thick cloud of black chi. The ominous energy oozing from it was suffocating, sending chills down Long Chen's spine. Actually, Evil Moon began, but its words were cut short. With a startled cry, it was abruptly ejected from the primal chaos space. Long Chen jumped and hastily went into the primal chaos space. The sight before him left him utterly dumbfounded. The black chi surging from Evil Moon had contaminated the surroundings. Even the shattered rock fragments scattered by Long Chen's earlier attacks had been corroded, disintegrating into fine dust. What is going on? Long Chen asked, his jaw dropping. Now, he knew why the primal chaos space had kicked out Evil Moon. I'm not sure either. Evil Moon chuckled, its sinister tone more pronounced than ever. But I feel incredible, better than ever. I'm bursting with power and itching to find something worthy to hack apart. The ominous laughter sent a chill through Long Chen. At that moment, the Earth Cauldron's calm, ancient voice rang out. The laws of primal chaos have awakened its original runes. Be cautious. This little one might grow increasingly malevolent. The surrounding space quivered as the earth cauldron materialized before Long Chun. Its appearance drew yet another startled reaction from him. What they? Long Chen's eyes widened in shock, unable to believe what he was seeing.